In this beginner's guide, I'll show you how to play Master of Command for the first act. We'll be going over some important tips and tricks that'll help you get off the ground and set you up to complete the rest of your campaign. It'll be so easy, even grandma would understand. Let's begin by picking a new campaign. This will take us to our faction selection. So here we can see 5 options at the top. And if you're just playing this for the very first time, you will only have access to this first army composition. These other 2 will be locked, but we will unlock them pretty quickly. This one will be unlocked by the end of the tutorial, and this one will be unlocked if you go on and complete the full campaign. So to begin with, we will play as the Habsburg monarchy. It's the one with the black and yellow split flag, and the army type is the Crownland Corps, which is a professional artillerist. We start with 1 artillery battalion and 3 infantry battalions. We also have some bonuses and debuffs. So here, the multinational army, we get regiment and officer recruitment options +3. So anytime we go to a town, if they have a barracks or they have an officer recruitment barracks, then we have 3 more to choose from than we would normally. But recruits gain veterancy slower, so they level up a little bit slower, but we'll talk about how to overcome that without any issues. Now over here for our army composition, the Crownland Corps, they get a +10% to artillery accuracy. This is going to be incredibly important because artillery is not very accurate if you don't have high enough stats to use them. We'll cover basically how to use your army and play to their strengths. And in this case, you could turn on a bunch of other options if you want to try to complete some other achievements. In this case, we're going to leave everything off and just leave it as standard. We won't put on Iron Man mode, and I actually recommend for your first playthrough especially don't, because we'll be creating some save files so that you can experiment and lose battles without having to feel the stress of having to go back and redo the whole thing. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. We will continue and move to the next screen. So this is where we will get 3 different options to pick these things called doctrines, and also a free unit. So if you look right here, this top is always going to be a unit, and the bottom one is going to be a doctrine, giving you different kinds of bonuses once you complete these tasks. So we want to pick one, not so much for the unit, but more for the doctrine. And because this is the beginning of the campaign, we haven't spent any time invested in building our army yet. If you don't get any good doctrines, then you can just restart and it'll take you 5-10 seconds to recycle the whole thing, and just do it a couple times until you get one that you like. That is definitely optional. If you don't care enough, it's not that big of a deal. I'm a little bit of a min-maxer, so I like to do that. But otherwise, you can just pick one and go. Now, what I would recommend if you're starting out in the beginning, especially with this type of army, they go through a lot of ammunition and you have to resupply your army with ammunition. There's a doctrine that allows you to use 35% less ammo in each battle. So I would recommend safe scumming this until you can get that doctrine. And when I say safe scum, I mean, you don't see it on here, just press escape, quit, confirm. It'll send you back to the main menu, and then you can cycle through the same thing. So new campaign, click on Habsburg monarchy, you'll be on Crownland Corps, and then you just continue. And like I said, it's very quick. You can just re-roll it until you get one that you like. So let's talk about some of the bonuses. So this one, officer morale and command radius is doubled. Not particularly that good. Your officer, when you get in your units, they'll get a higher bonus to their morale. This one, every time you go to a settlement, you get $100, which is the currency that you use to buy things. Item cost plus 10% though, so there is a negative with that one. And then this one, reload 15% and minus 5% charge. So we're going to be stacking reload and accuracy. Those are the 2 bonuses that we care about. Any of the others, I don't think we really should be caring about too much, because we're going to be focusing on standing our ground and shooting at people, not charging in and getting into melee. That doesn't mean we won't be in melee, but we want to make sure we stack bonuses that play to that strength. So this would actually be a decent one. This one would help our economy, and this one wouldn't really help with anything. Now I've went ahead and safe scum my own bonus for this one. I'm going to pause it, reload, and then I'll show you what we got. And that actually brings up a good point. So you can create as many save files as you want, because we're not doing an Iron Man mode. So I went ahead and I have a grandma start here. And this is going to be the one that, now I accidentally deleted my save, so I had to save scum a couple more times. Didn't take me long, less than a minute. And we've got this one. This is the one I recommend. If you're following along with this guide, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I do recommend the same for you, because like I said, you will go through a lot of ammunition. And the last thing you want to do is spend your hard-earned cash on ammo, as opposed to expanding your army, getting better equipment, and etc. So you'll notice here, this one, to get this doctrine in effect, we have to secure 5 battlefields. So we'll talk about what that means once we get on the campaign maps. But you don't just automatically get this, you have to do something in order to activate this. It also is going to come with a free unit on top. In this one, we have a per cop artillery unit. This has pretty high accuracy and decent cannons that they start with. Yours is going to be different. It's all randomized, and these are units that are unlocked as you go. I've got almost all of them unlocked, so you'll probably have regular units. It doesn't really matter that much, to be honest. You could do it with no free unit. You could do it with, you know, the basic one that they give you. It shouldn't make that big of a difference. But we're going to go ahead and select this one and continue. And we're going to start out in our camp. We want to do a few things before we go out onto the campaign. We have a bunch of these items that we need to equip. So let's go ahead and click on our cannon over here. You can see we start with a 3-pound gun, but we do have a 6-pound bronze gun in our inventory. Now you'll notice this gun, if you hold Alt, you can compare two weapons that are similar. We're currently on the 3-pound iron, and if we go to the 6-pound iron, it's going to give us less accuracy and a longer reload time, but it will increase the range by about, was that 85 units? So it's a pretty big difference. Generally, if it's more expensive, is generally better, so you probably want to equip it. There's also an elevation screw. This is going to give us plus 15% to the max range, but it will slow our reload by -2. Not a big deal, just take it. That moves our accuracy or max range up to 566. I think that's probably meters. So we're good there. The last thing I would probably recommend doing is putting this on. So the veterancy gain plus 10% and then ammo consumption minus 10%. Like I said, the cannon will go through a lot of ammo and it will take away from a lot of your ammunition supply. So we'll go with that. And then over here, we start with 3 infantry, there's a fusilier, and then 2 Crownland recruits. And you can see the fusiliers have just basic flat black hats, whereas the Fusilier has the white trim and then a little bit fancier coat. This guy doesn't really have anything on his coat, so that's how you can tell at a glance. This unit is definitely more advanced. If you click right here, you click on the unit, and then this button right here next to the name, it's a little up arrow. This will show you their upgrade tree. So you can see right here, they start out as a Crownland recruit. They can upgrade down 3 different, or in this case, 4 different paths. You can go the cavalry path, the Jaeger, which is a light infantry unit. You can go regular line infantry, or you can go artillery. So this one unit can branch out into 4 different groups. In this case, most of the time, we're just going to be focused on this right side. So these units right here, and then also the artillery. And in this case, this guy's a Fusilier. These recruits, I'm not sure quite yet if they'll go the Fusilier or the artillery battalion just yet, but we'll kind of make that determination as we go. Now, these guys are going to be our front lines. So let's look at the rest of our equipment. We have a medicinal herbs. This will reduce casualties sustained by 20% at the end of the battle. So let's say we take 100 losses. This will reduce it by 20. We'll get 20 of those casualties back. So we definitely want to do that because anytime you take a loss, you have to replace them with a reservist. And we'll go over that as we go, but I just want you to kind of get a basic idea for what the gameplay loop is. You're pretty much buying units, equipping them with better gear, and setting up a specific build for your army. And in this case, we're only focusing on ranged combat, specifically long-range artillery and a static defensive line with line infantry. That's mostly what we'll be doing. We also have buck and ball rounds. I don't particularly like these. You can use them if you want. I don't recommend using it. We'll just sell it so we can make some money off it. It's worth a lot of money. I don't find it to be all that useful, to be honest. So especially for a beginner, I don't recommend using it. So we're going to get out there. Let's go ahead and close this out. It's going to throw us onto the campaign map, and then we'll have our first fight here. So you'll always have one of these supply caches. Go ahead and click on it, and then you have the option to take, for most of these encounter pop-ups, you'll have, you know, good options, bad options, or sometimes it's a mix of 2. In this case, we can take money, food, or ammo. Now, if you look up here, we have plenty of reservists. We have 750 ammo. That's decent, so it should be okay there. We will probably run out of food in the near future, but not quite yet. And we only have 150 gold. So I would say probably take the coin. We'll get $30 and then we have to fight a detachment. Now you would think spawning an enemy would be bad, but it's actually the more enemies you can fight, the better off you will be. The caveat there is you want to fight armies that you can defeat easily without taking a lot of losses or expending a lot of your resources. So in this case, this is a very easy fight. It's basically free money at this point. So you can see here, our army is up on the left. We have our 1st Infantry Division and then the artillery, and then the enemy has 2 very weak infantry. These are Freikorps recruits. So again, they're the weakest units, the recruits, and they also have a provincial cav. The cavalry is not very good, so you can see their stats fairly comparable to our Fusilier. so we should be able to handle him no problem. And then if you really want to get more detail, you can hover over the officer here and see what bonuses they have. So they have cover efficiency and minus fire damage received. They have move speed and reload speed. So they don't have anything particularly saving them from melee combat, but we're not going to engage them in melee. But I think for the most part, you could probably ignore these. But if you're ever curious to see what bonuses they have, you can check that out. And then same thing, I forgot to look at ours. So our officer that is leading the infantry actually has legendary, which is one of the best traits in the game. So combat effectiveness is a stat that affects 4 different categories. It affects your accuracy, your reload speed, your melee damage, and your charge damage. So this is going to add 10% to all 4 of those, and it also reduces the chances that our officer dies. Now the first unit in your army is the one that has the officer. So this Austrian Fusilier has our officer in there. If you take too many casualties, your officer will die. So you got to be careful with them. Same thing over here. We have an officer that gives artillery range plus 15% and then a slower reload by 5%. And if we take too many casualties in this artillery battalion, we will actually lose our officer. So just be aware of that and be careful. But let's go ahead and jump right into the battle. All right, we're in, and let's talk about some basic controls. There's quite a few ways you can move around on the battlefield. I prefer to use WASD to pan the camera around. And if you want to move faster, you hold shift and that pans around quite a bit faster. You can center mouse click, whatever your mouse will scroll. You can click and hold that down and then kind of move your mouse around that way. I don't usually use it too much. I usually use the WASD. And if you got to move really quick from one end of the map to the other, you can click on the mini map up here and that'll shoot you around. Because sometimes you want to split your army and then you'll have to move them around. There's another way. If you want to jump to a specific unit quickly, just double click on their picture down here. That'll jump you right to them. So if you're not sure where a unit is, that'll snap you right to it. Let's look at the map itself. So you see, we start out right here in this blue box. We can deploy anywhere in here, and then the enemy is up here in this red box. They have, like I said, 1 cavalry, 2 infantry, not particularly good units, so it doesn't matter too much where we deploy, but we can take some choices here that will give us a little bit of an advantage. If you see right here, there's a little hill, and again, there's a lot of randomness in this game, so you don't know what map you're going to get. Your map's probably not going to be the same as mine, but just some general ideas. If you have some hills that are nearby that you can get on quickly, that's probably a good spot to throw your artillery on, because if you look right here, there's a little pop-up that says elevation, and we're in the center of this, so we get the full 100% elevation bonus. That gives us a little bit of cover. It allows us to get more accuracy. There's an accuracy bonus to that, and in this case, it's 10%. So whatever your elevation bonus is, you get basically 10% of that. So if you have an elevation bonus of 50, then you will only have a 5% accuracy bonus. So that's what that is. And then I believe being on the high ground, it also recovers morale faster, but that's not really that important. Mainly it's for the accuracy. And accuracy is incredibly important on your artillery. If you don't have high accuracy, you will miss so many shots. You'll blow through all of your ammo, and then you're just not going to have a good time. So let's go ahead and set up our line here. As you recall, we equipped the herbs on our Austrian Fusilier. So we would prefer him to be in the front line so that he takes most of the casualties. We'll get 20% of those guys back. If you don't feel comfortable putting it on your officer, you could throw it on one of these Crownland recruits and have them front line. It doesn't really matter that much, but that's what I did for this. Let's go ahead and move these guys around. So what you can do is move your units around. So if you left click to select, and then you right click to drag and hold, and you can kind of move it around depending on where you want it to go. And in this case, we want to form a nice straight line. Maybe get rid of that back row, and that brings up another very important point. The shape of your army is very important. So if I'm in a straight line like this, this increases the damage that we do, especially with ranged attacks. But there's some drawbacks. So you will move slower, as opposed to if you're in like a column formation, you move much faster. You also take more morale hit when you're like this, as opposed to being huddled together. So there's less morale damage when you're huddled, but you become an easier target for ranged units, especially artillery, when you are in column formation, and slightly less so when you're in a long skinny line. So that is pretty important. And the final thing, if you notice here, when we're in the forest, you get this thing called cover bonus. And we kind of talked about it right here. You get 20 cover from being on top of the hill, 64 for being in the woods. You can block some of the incoming fire damage. It doesn't affect melee damage, but it affects any kind of musket fire or cannons that come in. So if you can be in cover while your enemy is not in cover, that's ideal. If you can't get to cover, you want to make sure your enemy is at least not in cover. but it's not the end of the world if you don't have cover, if it's a fairly even fight. If you're outnumbered and outmatched, you have to use terrain to your advantage as best you can. But I think for this first fight, it doesn't matter that much. We're going to be very firmly in the lead. And then a final point about being in the woods or certain other terrains. If I click on this unit and hold Alt, you'll notice there's a lot of other stats that came up. The most important, there's two that are really important here at the very bottom. You have terrain accuracy of 85% and bracing of 100%. So terrain accuracy, if I come over here to the grasslands, you can see our terrain accuracy goes back up to 100%. Again, just think accuracy equals damage. So if you have a low accuracy, you will do less damage. If you have a very high accuracy, you'll do a ton of damage. So you always, for an army that shoots, you always want to prioritize getting your accuracy as high as you can. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a lot of ammo and not getting a whole lot of casualties in return for that. So particularly important for artillery. You would never want to put your artillery in the woods. It's just not a good idea. Get them over here where they can get a bonus. So with that said, the last thing I guess we should talk about is your general, which is this guy right here. So he starts with 150 troops. These units do not require replacement if they die. However, if you lose your general, it will be a massive morale hit to all of your troops and they will likely run. So for example, these Crownland recruits, they have very low morale, only 30. So if you lose your general, these guys are most likely just going to flee and you'll be stuck with your Austrian Fusiliers only. Your artillery will retreat as well, and then you'll just be stuck by yourself. So be careful with this guy. You see this little blue radius. Anytime he goes near somebody, he will give a bonus to morale. So you can see if we come over here, this guy is not getting a bonus to morale. And if we move our general over there, it goes up to 42. So pretty good. Morale is obviously good for keeping your units in the fight, but if you get it high enough, you can actually get combat stat bonuses for doing that. So not really important right now, but in the late game, you will want to stack morale and get above 75 or above 100. That's where you get the bonuses. But anyways, that's enough info dump. Let's go ahead and get in there. Let's select our artillery. The AI is decent at picking targets, but we want to probably select targets ourselves. So in this case, the biggest threat is not really the cavalry. Most of the time, the cavalry just charges into your front line and then they get beat up pretty badly. We want to take out these recruits. So let's go ahead. We have our artillery selected. Let's go ahead and deploy. Make sure we select one of these infantry and not the cavalry. And we'll see a volley come by. We should see some cannonballs come by and smash in these guys any second now. Any second. What are they doing? There they go. All right, they're shooting now. And you'll see the cannonball. There's a skip that went off the ground right there. Unfortunately, he's missing. I've noticed for the player, a lot of your first volley will miss, and then they'll kind of zero in on the second volley and they'll start hitting. So first volley, you just get it off as soon as you can so they can miss. There we go. We got 38 kills already. That's pretty good. Now, these cavalry, if they were to go a little bit closer, that cannonball would skip behind and take them out. So sometimes it's good to pick targets where you can get some splash damage or some carryover. So if we hit right here and the ball bounces back far enough, we'll get lucky and kill some of his cav as well. See, that one skipped right over him. Almost took out some cav. Here we go. So they're approaching, and there's really nothing we need to do here. I picked this army composition because it's fairly hands-off. You can see right now they are getting into range, and we're starting to exchange fire with them, and that's fine. So as long as we are getting more kills than they are, and you can see right here, our unit's not in range there, so we need to adjust our units so that we can actually defend ourselves here. So let's move up just a little bit. And then you can click to attack, or you can just tell them to hold, and then they won't do anything funky and they should fire back. There we go. Good volley. So they're even. This guy is not attacking because he's not lined up properly. So let's go ahead and move him up just a little bit. And then if the game's moving too slow for you, you can use these, or I personally set mine to hotkeys. You can do that in the settings. I like to speed my game up a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. And we got a beautiful volley off there. So we're just going to keep whittling them down. You can see our cannon is getting decent kills, 73. Our Fusilier is getting the most kills, but he is also taking a lot of damage. So we got to be careful that we don't lose too many troops here. There we go. They're retreating. That's perfect. Now these guys look like their cavalry are going to come in and attack. So let's go ahead and move our units. Let's get over here and we will try to defend. So you want to make sure. And actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the game here for just a second so I can explain this. If you have a volley either close to being ready or already ready to go, put your units on hold fire. So you click on volley fire here, and that will be not volley fire. They won't shoot at anything, basically. And then if they have a targeting, like let's say you targeted these guys, you want to clear that targeting by pressing hold, and then they won't do anything. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit. You can see we still have a little bit of reload to go here. As soon as this gray bar gets to max, then we'll be good to go. Now they are charging. We want to get our general over here so he can provide moral support, and we get our volley off, and that does a lot of damage. They actually didn't reach us. If they did reach us, it would have been fine, because if you hold Alt, you can see here at the bottom that bracing number. We have a bracing of 100%. It would have done a huge amount of damage to their cav because our units are braced for the impact. So they would have been just fine. But it's always good to make sure you don't move, because when you move, you lose your brace. So if you see a cav coming, stop what you're doing, make sure you face them so that you're not getting flanked, and then use your bracing to your advantage. So there we go. We got an easy win. Our artillery did a decent amount of the damage, and then our front line cleaned up the rest. And then after battle, we're going to get some cash, and we'll also get the option to pick from 3 different mana points that we want to spend. So we can get more money and ammunition, we can get reservists and casualty restored, or we can take veterancy, so XP for our units, and provisions. Now, in this case, we want to get as much cash as we can, because we are going to be blowing through a lot of money in the early game so we can build up our forces. So I do recommend this. If you took a ton of losses, like let's say you took 1,000 losses, you might want to take some conscription so you can get your units back. But I think in this case, we should be fine. We'll go Talars and 216 ammo. There we go. And you can see this unit right here that took a lot of the losses, that little manpower bar, it goes down and then it bounces right back because we have that unit that restores those. So really good item to have. Now, post-battle, we do need to replenish both our manpower and our ammunition. So this green bar is our foot troops, and this yellow bar is how many shots they have in their pouch. Couple ways you can restore your troops. You can just click and drag all the way up until you're full. You can do that for each one. That's obviously kind of annoying, especially if you do a lot of battles. You can restore everybody in this brigade by clicking this button, or if you took a lot of damage across everything, you can just do it up here, and this is the entire army. So replenish, and then same thing for the ammo. So there we go. We'll be back to full strength. And you'll notice we have a little bit of a thumbnail here where there's like a dark green. That means that we don't have all the troops, but they will be trained over the next few days. So it takes a few turns for them to get back to full strength, but they will be there soon. And we also got a bunch of loot from the battle. Now, this is the part of the guide where it's going to be hard to tell you exactly what to do because there's so much RNG. I have no clue what kind of loot drops you will get from yours. It's probably safe to say it's not going to be the exact same as this though. So in general, when you're trying to build an army like this, like I said, we're focusing on accuracy and range. You also need to do stamina, because stamina you use for anything, whether you're moving around, fighting in melee or range. You do use a lot of stamina, so that's always going to be important, but most important is going to be reload and aim and range. Actually, all 3 of those stats are good. So you can see here we've got this item which gives us reload and stamina bonus, cover bonus and max range, morale and melee, attrition reduction and melee damage received reduction, morale and stamina, etc., etc. So ideally we want to put this one on because this is reload and move speed. This is also reload and stamina. We have max range, that's really good. Morale and melee, who cares? These other ones are nice. We will equip them still, but they're not really the priority. So these are the priority. Now we have a Fusilier up here, which is going to be the one that has the best accuracy out of all the units that we have. So we want to boost him up first. So let's go ahead and give him the reload and move speed. Oh, actually, that's a good point. So if you hover your mouse over this, it says items. Right below the price, it says items, comma, rations. So you can only equip one item from each category. So these 3 items are all rations. So the cheese is a ration, the coffee, and the herbs are all rations. So if I want to equip any of these, I can't equip all 3. You can see it just replaces it. So I think in this case, we probably want to take this off and put the coffee rations on. We'll also take the reload and stamina, and then it doesn't really matter for the next one. I guess we could take the stamina and move speed. So move speed is not that big of a deal for this specific army because we're mostly standing still and shooting back. If you have an army that you need to move and get into melee range, do not ever take movement speed penalties. It's not good. But in this case, it's not a big deal, and we could use the stamina so we can just keep shooting without losing any stamina. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is put this on our artillery, and I'm going to take off these canister rounds. So I didn't talk about that. It's not important. Don't use these things. They're really hard to use. You cannot shoot over the top of your units. You have to have a direct line of sight. I don't recommend having direct line of sight. The enemy will immediately shoot your units. So you can use this once you get more skill, but as a beginner, don't worry about it. Just don't even bother. We do want to get stamina on our cannons. and then obviously range and all this other good stuff. Now for this guy, I think we will take the max range and cover bonus. So when we were in there, you could see we got like a 20% cover bonus for being on the terrain. We would have had an extra plus 20% on top of that because of this item. So that's pretty good to have, especially when you can choose your defensive positions. Now down here, we want to equip one of these guys with our rations. Probably give him around because he's going to be taking a lot of beatings. And then also the blanket rolls so he can take less melee damage. Not really that big of a deal. We shouldn't be in melee most of the time. And then our final recruit, we will give him the cheese, which is morale and stamina. And then these other items we will either save for later or sell it. So back to the campaign map, and you can see here we are not quite full strength. Every day that goes by, we will get some replenishment. And because these are lower tier units, you can see this is average replenishment. This is fast replenishment because it's a low tier unit. It's easy to replace them. So first thing I would recommend doing is before you move anywhere, take a look at your map and kind of plan out where you think you want to go. We started out in basically the center. You can see here we're right in the middle. And then it goes all the way to the right here. Pretty big map. We have 150 days to do what we need to do. And that'll go by really quickly. So you do have to be efficient. So if we want to get our free unit, we need to go to 4 outposts and that'll give us our artillery. If we want to get the minus ammo usage, it's going to be secure 5 battlefields. Now, if you're not sure what they are, hover your mouse over these little flags and it'll tell you exactly what's what. So you can see right here, outposts. That's these things. And if you click on it, it'll cycle through and show you where all of them are. Most of our outposts look like they're on the bottom half of the map. So we'll probably come down here first. Yep, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If we can do all 4 of these, we'll get our free artillery. And then the battlefield, there's one over here in the mountains. Looks like there's one in the south, one over here, and then a couple over here. So it looks like we'll probably go south and try and get everything done going this way. But like I said, your map is probably going to be different. Your objectives are going to be different. So just be aware, hover your mouse over here to find out where they are, get a rough idea of where you want to go, and then stick to the plan. So we probably want to go to this town first. So I'm going to right click to move to the town. And then when you get in town, there's a couple options. Up here, you can buy food if you need more rations. You can buy manpower if you went through too much. Or you can buy ammo if you use too much. So all these are up here. And then every town, you could see it up here. They have this little flashing thing that'll tell you what kind of bonuses or debuffs this town is currently experiencing. In this case, infantry recruitables are -2 and they cost 10% more. So if you come over here to the barracks, this is where we recruit units. These Crownland recruits are more expensive than they should be. So we don't want to buy from here. And then all these other units are very, very expensive. We are going to avoid doing that. We could, however, sell some items if there's some stuff here we don't really want. So for example, this buck and ball we could sell. Canister rounds we can sell. I will keep the 3-pound gun. It's not a good one, but it's better than not having one. And if we get a unit that can upgrade to a cannon, we'll want to give them something so that they're not just using the worn out 1-pound gun. You start default with a really, really bad gun. So first thing first, let's head south and check out these 2 outposts. So we start out, if you look over here on the left-hand side, there's a couple different stances that you can take when you're marching. We're going to stay in march stance for now, and I'll kind of explain what these do, but there's one that moves faster. There's raiding, which means you can destroy the town and take their stuff. There's a training one, we'll go over that, and then foraging, we'll go over that in just a second. Now, this first objective is we could either march to the relief and get an artillery regiment. We can wait to strike. This is going to cost us, so you can see here there's different things. So this, we face a tough field army. We literally just started. We cannot take on a tough field army. That's not a good idea. Wait and strike. This costs us 7 days. So basically it means that the enemy is going to come at us sooner because we have to sit here and wait for 7 days. But it's only a weak enemy field army, and we would get a free artillery in both instances. Like I said, don't fight a tough enemy until you're ready, and we won't be ready until we have 2, maybe 3 full regiments. So we'll work on that later. Let's wait the 7 days and we'll get ourselves a free Austrian battalion artillery. And then we get to fight this guy right here. So you can see they don't have any artillery. It's the same thing, just some infantry and a cavalry unit. Let's go ahead and get our artillery all matched up. This guy also has a 3-pound gun, so that's not going to help us. And then they also have canister rounds. We'll leave it for now, but this little cannon should help us a bit. So let's get in there and fight it. Now, I'm not going to do this for every single battle, but this being the second battle, we will do it again. So you can see we start off in the woods. And if you remember, you do not want to get that accuracy debuff. So don't fight in the woods with your cannons. It's okay to fight with your infantry because they'll get a pretty big bonus to the cover at the expense of a little bit of accuracy, but do not put your cannons in there. It's bad news. And then we start really close to this little hill. So what we might want to do is set up our units a little closer. We'll move back to be on the hill, and then our infantry can block up here. And then we'll also get our cavalry right here. Now, as your army expands, it's usually a good idea to get comfortable with control groups. So every time I want to move these guys, I could either click the officer's portrait and it'll select all of them. But if I'm moving around the battlefield and I need to move units quickly, sometimes that's still too much time to move your mouse down here and do that. If you hold shift and press the number, any number you want to assign them to, in this case, I like my infantry to be in control group 1. You can see the little 1 here. Now, if I click off and I press the 1 on my keyboard, they are automatically selected. So that's how you set up control groups. We'll go 1, 2, and 3. So artillery will be 2, our general will be 3. So let's go ahead and start it. Let's get our units back on the hill, the mountaintop, and make sure that they are getting the full 100% accuracy bonus. We will also spread our infantry out a little bit. Like I said, we'll go until that back row is gone. So we'll get a nice solid line. Not too thin so that they're taking a lot of morale damage, but thin enough so that they can actually get some damage out when they shoot. So here we go. I'm going to speed this up till we get our artillery in place. Now we have 80% and 100%. So these guys are not quite on the hill. Let's move them up. Make sure they're all the way on the hill. 80, 100%. Perfect. Now we can come over here and unlimber, and then we'll be ready to go. Actually, I think I forgot to mention that in the other one. So your units, your artillery moves faster when they're limbered, and then unlimber is when they're able to shoot. So let's see what we can fire at. Okay, they have a unit of light infantry. Let's pause this real quick and zoom in and see what these guys are all about. So light infantry usually come in groups of 600, and you'll notice they're not tightly packed. They're kind of spread out. Do not shoot at these with your cannons. It's 95% of the time it is a complete waste of your ammo and your time, so don't do it. We need to re-target somebody else. In this case, we have Cantonist recruits and 2 Freikorps recruits. They're all recruits. It doesn't matter who you're shooting at. But what you want to keep an eye out for is maybe a unit that has higher tier units, like a musketeer or a grenadier, or even worse, a named unit. So like the Lenoble Jaeger or something like that. Anything that has a name that's not Fusilier, Grenadier, Recruit. Those units are special units. They usually have very high stats and you want to take them out first. So Cannonball doesn't care if you're a highly experienced troop or if you're a recruit, they kill you all the same. So target the best unit that they have that you'll get decent kills with. See, this other cannon is not quite in range, so we'll go ahead and speed that up. But you can see here, 1 direct hit did 3 kills worth of damage. Not worth it at all. Do not target Jaegers. You usually want to get them in melee if you can. In this case, the only melee troop that we have is our general, and we probably don't want to send him in until these guys take a few losses. So let's go ahead and... Yep, there we go. Our other smaller cannon is fighting them as well. So there we go. We're going to pick these guys off just a little bit, weaken them, and then as they get closer, we'll come back and kind of see what happens. All right, here we go. We are starting to get some shots off. We got a volley with our front line. Everybody got their ammo off. As you can see, the Jaegers are over here. I'm going to move. Let's move our general over here so we can take advantage of that. And then we are still plugging away at these Freikorps recruits. You can see the cannons are chunking them down. You generally want to focus 1 unit at a time, because keep in mind, if it takes you 4 volleys to kill a unit, as opposed to if you focus fire them down with like 4 or 5 units, and they get rid of them in 1 volley, that means you take less damage from the enemy not having enough volleys to shoot. So be aware of that. Again, we don't want to shoot the Jaegers. We want to shoot the recruits, and then we'll use our other units to deal with the Jaegers. So these guys are exchanging decently. Yeah, I don't know how they have such a positive... Yeah, I guess, can they not reach? No, they can definitely reach. I don't know why they're not shooting, but not a big deal. Let's go ahead and charge them with our Fusiliers. And what I'm going to do is we'll also follow up with our front line. So to be able to get your unit to go into melee mode, there's a button down here, lock on a melee. You click that, and then instead of having the crosshair icon, you can see right here, crosshairs, that's telling them to shoot. You do this one, and then they will go into charge stance. So here we go. We're getting ready to charge. Like I said, we want most of the damage to come on from our infantry. We'll follow up right behind. Cav's going to come in and just absolutely destroy these guys. Look at that. So we're taking some heavy losses here, but their Jaegers are pretty much dead. We need to pull our commander back so he doesn't get killed. And then we are getting charged here by Hussars. So there we go. It is what it is. We'll go ahead and countercharge the Hussars a little bit as well. That is maybe not going to work out too well. Now, you'll notice when you charge, you cannot give commands as long as that little yellow charge bar is active. So once that starts to go down a little bit, then you'll get control of your units back. Now we need to deal with this Hussar as fast as we can. Let's go ahead and target the Hussars right now and see if we can help, because we're going to lose that melee right now if we just continue on this path. So let's keep all of our units here, focusing everything we can down on the Hussars. Nope, they're going to break our Fusiliers, unfortunately. Oh, we got him. We just got him. Wow. It was one of our cannon volleys broke him. So we're still fleeing, but not a big deal. We only took about 200 casualties. That's not that bad in the grand scheme of things. So here we go. Target them. Oh, they're going to kill our general. So you can see who they're targeting. We do not want to lose our general. So get him out of there and get him behind the infantry line. Oh boy. And they came back right in the middle of the enemy. That's not ideal, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and move them back. Oh, and it didn't matter because they killed them anyways. So you can see here, battles are hectic. You can have the best plan, you know, map every contingency out, but you just never know what's going to happen. Sometimes your lines go a little wonky and you just have to deal with it. Most of the time in your campaign, you shouldn't be dealing with the Jaegers. These guys are the most troublesome. The cavalry and the line infantry are not really a big deal. Jaegers are hard to deal with unless you have grenadiers that move fast or you have melee cavalry. Those are the two things that light infantry just absolutely cannot deal with. So once you get that, you should be fine. But like I said, most of this campaign, depending on who your enemy is, it's mostly going to be line infantry and cav. It shouldn't be a big deal. But all right, let's go ahead and get set up here. We want to get our bracing back up because we have another cavalry charge coming in. I did not mean to move, but we should be able to counter some of that. Yep, there we go. So because we were standing still, we got a little bit of reflection damage back on them. There we go. We don't want these guys to charge and lose all of their stamina, so let's just reform. These guys need to shoot, and make sure your cannons are shooting at their last unit. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to clean this up. And there we go. They are retreating. Like I said, we took a pretty heavy loss on that Fusilier. Maybe we should have kept the herbs on them, because now we're not going to get that replenishment back, but probably not a big deal. 250 gold. And then now you can see if we don't replenish our losses, we have 719. We only have 1176 in the bank. That's not enough. So we'll be left with like 300 or 400. So what we want to do is take replenishment or the conscription right here. So it's going to restore 10%. So we took 719. We will get 72 troops back basically by doing that. Plus another 798 reservists. So that's good. We've got some items here that we can use and some items that we'll probably just sell off. So let's go ahead and do that. Take that. And then we should be getting some levels. You can see here, a lot of these guys got promoted. That's good. And you can see the artillery needs to be level 5 for the next promotion. This guy needs level 4 for his promotion. And then these guys, I think 3. Yep. Austrian Fusiliers is 3. So we can't do anything yet with that. Let's just replenish, restock ammo, and then let's look at some items. So stamina, as I mentioned, that's pretty important on pretty much every unit that you have. But I did notice that artillery goes through stamina a little bit faster now in this current patch. So I'm going to throw that on artillery. And I'm also going to put, see, we have a rifle and a bayonet. These recruits will always start with a worn musket and a worn bayonet. So not ideal. We'll go ahead and swap it out with the two. We just got a Tula musket and a light socket bayonet. And then this one will move to the bottom and we will sell these when we get to town. So same thing here. Move these down. We'll sell that. And then the heavy saddle, we're not going to have cav in this playthrough, so we're not going to use that. We'll go ahead and give the great coats to these guys. We probably won't be in melee with them, but if they get charged by cav, this will help reduce their melee damage received by 10%. So there we go. We've got a cannon in reserve. We've got some items to sell at the next time we go to a town, and everything else is good to go. Let's keep moving south, go to this next outpost. Now there's some interesting options here. This one, we can either expend ammunition and get an HQ delayed by 2 weeks. We can provide them ammo and delay it by 1 week, or we can consolidate, take the reservists 390 into our party, and then I'll just boost up our green mana. In this case, I would probably recommend delaying the HQ by 2 weeks, because that just means we get to play on the map for 2 weeks war, and that means we can find more armies to fight, we can go to more towns, buy more items, spend more time training, resolve more issues on the map, and get more free items, free units, all that stuff. So I've always go for HQ delay when I'm in the early stage, and then if you're in the late stage and you've already cleared most of the map, it's not as big of a deal. But yeah, I would recommend clearing and delaying the enemy HQ as much as you can. So that'll delay by 2 weeks. And you can see here now, instead of 150, we're up to 164 when the HQ attacks. So real good start there. Let's get to this town and see what they've got. Now up here, you can see item cost minus 15%, so we can buy items cheaper. and ammunition is more expensive by 25%. So we don't want to buy ammo here. We could buy some of these. I don't think we need it though. The main goal that we're working on right now is to fill out our army. We want to get as many units as we can. We have 3 recruitment slots available, and then after we fill those 3, we can start a new brigade. It's going to cost us 600, but it'll allow us to get our 3rd. And in this tutorial, we're only going to go up to 3 full brigades, and then we should be able to clear the first act with just that. So back in, we want to go to our barracks. And here they have artillery. They also have Crownland recruits. And then they have some other units that we're probably not really going to look at. But I want to show you a couple things. So right here, these Crownland recruits, if we want to do them into artillery, we would have to buy them right now at 375 and then have them gain 3 levels. And then they would become artillery. And they would not have any equipment. If we buy this Austrian battalion artillery right now, we would get automatically a 3-pound gun, and we would skip the whole recruiting phase and leveling them up, and we just go right to there. So you have to decide, is it worth it to buy recruits and train them? Or is it better to spend a little bit more money and get the equipment to start with and then just being able to use the artillery right away? I generally, in the early game, prefer to buy recruits and train them up manually. One thing, we already have a cannon waiting. So if we train one of these guys up, it'll save us about 350 gold. It's about 325 difference between these two, and that's actually a lot of money. So I would rather get the Crownland recruits. And I'm actually going to buy 2 of them, and then that moves us up. We only have 1 more recruitment slot available, and then we'll need to save up and buy the new brigade. And unfortunately, we don't have any items to put in these guys, but that's fine. We'll get items through combat. Don't buy any items right now. It is not worth it. Just don't. The only thing you could potentially buy is maybe some officers, which you can do at the noble estate. And I always recommend buy the one that has nothing on him. So for example, this is a level 3. Level 3, these already got perks selected. Find the ones that are cheap, 50 all the way up to maybe 80 for a level 0. So we'll definitely take this guy. We do need to sell some items, and let me show you how to sell. So if you click any of these shops, that's not the barracks and the noble estate. You can't sell items to those 2, but let's say like the staff college. This is how much money we have. This is how much money the shop has. And if we scroll down here, you can see the items that we have saved that we want to sell. If we right click, you can do that, or you can just, if you prefer to drag and drop, you can do that. It's just kind of slow. So right click sends it in the middle. That means we'll be plus 212 if we do this, and confirm, and you'll see it takes the money out of their account. Now, if you have a massive amount of inventory that you want to sell, let's say we had like 10 grand worth of stuff, this guy's only going to be able to give us so much. Then you would go to the stables, sell them a bunch of stuff, go to the quartermaster, sell them, go to the town, etc., all the way down the line. Gunsmith has money, foundry has money, and then the powder house also. So really good way to stack up your cash if you have a lot of items. And then there also, sometimes you'll get a map that has, I don't know if it's going to have it for us on here, but there is a little icon that tells you that they will pay more money for your gear. So if you see one of those, if you hover over it, you can read it and see, like, this is manpower, this is item cost. So not what we're looking for, unfortunately, so I can't show you, but there is one where they will pay you, I believe it's 20% more for the item. So you could always save up all your gear and just sell it all at once to them when you get nearby. But that's going to be it for this town. We aren't going to do anything else here. If we want to, we can raid it. I don't think raiding in the early stage is really a good idea because it takes a lot of time. And you get money based on how many troops you have. You get money and food when you raid. So if you look right here, it says you get thalers and provisions for every day, every regiment in your army. So right now we have a really small army. Once we get 3 full brigades, then it might be a little bit more worth it. But right now it's probably not worth it. So just skip it. I do want to see what this convoy has. It's not one of our mission ones, but we might get lucky and get something good. So we could escort the merchants. So why don't we provide them with a large escort and get a good chance of them surviving. So we'll get some of them back, but more importantly, we get items and we get money back. So there we go. We got some boots and a jacket that we cannot use. We'll sell that. So leave that off to the side. And then this boot, we will throw on one of our recruits. Now we do need to head to the east, but we need to see this battlefield first. So let's go ahead and work on getting there. There's also another encampment here I'd like to go check out. Now, when you go into the mountains, you will start to see this little head, this death head. It usually means that you're going to burn through your food faster. You will also burn through your reservists. It'll cause you some attrition. Not always, but usually it does. Let's see, we could recover equipment. We can get reservists, or we can just leave. And then also you'll notice that this one down here is grayed out. If you happen to have any of these doctrines, the Pillager Doctrine or the Camp Powder Master Doctrine, you can get 4 weapons instead of just the 2, but in this case, it's not going to happen. We don't have weapons on our recruits, so we do need to get them equipped. So here we go. That's perfect. We got a Potsdam musket and a socket bayonet. Let's go ahead and put that on this guy. So now he doesn't have the worn equipment, and we'll end up selling that later. So there we go. Let's go back down to this encampment and see what it provides. All right, this one is asking if we want to spend ammunition to train our troops. I'm going to skip this one. If you have a big army, this is definitely worth it. But at this stage in the campaign, we don't want to waste any days training, and we don't want to expend any ammo. So I'm just going to bypass it, and let's just get to the town. This one has food that's very expensive, and that's kind of the thing we need too, so that's unfortunate, but we'll have to buy food at the next settlement, or if we get a fight, then we can do that. Actually, why don't we show raiding? So when you raid, you do get money and food, so if you click this, it turns you into a raiding stance, and you'll see every day that happens, you get this pop-up once in a while that says headquarter notified. That means that it adds 1 extra day. So every tick that goes down, it uses up a day, and if we get the headquarters, it adds another day. So doing this makes the headquarters come after you faster, but you do get money and food, and then at the end, if you get to the very end of the raid, you get whatever, some of the equipment that they had within the town. So this is for cavalry. We're not using cavalry. And then we have a shepherd's axe. This gives us a cover bonus and melee damage, so pretty good. Let's go ahead and throw that on one of our recruits. Yeah, it doesn't really matter who. All right, and actually, this guy has a good weapon, so we probably want to give him the best gear that we have, and then the other one will just, when we get a better musket and stuff, we'll maybe move some items around. So there we go. And you can kind of see the gameplay loop now. We're just going to keep moving from objective to objective. We do need to take out this battlefield. So why don't we hit that first, and then we'll come back to the town and then these 2 outposts. So let's go ahead and move over there. Oh, here we go. We got some armies. There's 2 of them here, and they actually think we are stronger than them. So they're trying to run. Do not let these guys out. Always fight them. We need to make money. We need to get our ammo and our reservists back. We need to get food, all that stuff. And you're only going to do that by fighting battles or buying it. We don't want to buy it. So let's go ahead and fight them. They do have a cannon this time, so we will take some casualties from that. But it's just 4 infantry and 1 cannon. We should be fine. All right, so same setup as always. We got our cannons on a hill so they can get the accuracy bonus. Our front lines up here, we're going to let them come into us. Now, we'll approach this one a little bit differently because they do have a cannon. And we're going to take some shots here. And you notice they also have a musketeer unit. So he's just in our range. We want to switch our targeting to this musketeer. We don't want to shoot the recruits and waste our ammo. We did get a volley off with 10 kills, but that's fine. We'll switch our targeting here. And then as soon as this other cannon is in range, we will target them. Now, you could target their enemy cannons, but it's incredibly hard to hit cannons until you get a lot of accuracy, like 100, 150 accuracy. Or you get a lot of cannons shooting. So if you get 4 brigades is the minimum, I would say, to start counter battery. But I would probably go higher than that even. So 6 to 8. And then you can start sniping them in 1 volley. Otherwise, you're just going to be shooting these guys and hitting nothing most of the time. It's just not worth it. So target the best unit they have. In this case, it's the muskets. So we'll try and snipe as many of those as we can. And then what we can do is probably we want to extend our line a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and move these guys to fan out a little bit wider so we get more firepower and kind of match what they have. We have 1 more infantry than they do, so we're in pretty good shape. Looks like our general is getting hit. We're getting sprayed from whatever they're shooting at in front. So yeah, we don't want to take too much damage there. So let's speed this up until they start getting shot, which is going to be right about now. You can see we're in range, but they're not. So we need to move up. And we probably want to move into a little bit of cover here. So we'll move up until we get a decent amount of cover, and then we'll stop and shoot. There we go. And these guys are probably going to run soon if we don't go over there with our general. So we do need to boost their morale, and they should be able to hold, especially with cannons. Cannons should be able to whittle this guy down quickly. Everybody else is shooting. As long as they're shooting, just leave them alone. If you need to move them into position, you can. You could go for a flank. We could try and flank this guy. But I found that by the time you get into a flanking position, they would have already been dead if you just stayed still anyway, so it's not that big of a difference. For a really big fight where there's a lot of units to go through, you probably want to try and get flanking positions, but you know, as it stands, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. So here we go. We are still whittling these muskets down. These recruits are about to flee, so that should help. And then we could fire this guy down with even more firepower once we get there. Actually, these guys are starting to lose their morale as well. Let's move over here. Get them boosted up a little bit. Yeah, they're getting chewed up, but that's because the artillery. There we go. These guys are breaking. So we want to, and these guys broke. Perfect. So we want to move them up so that they can chase. Let's move this unit so that they can get a good angle on these recruits. And then if we want to take this unit out even faster, we can have him move. I'm going to force march him, which is this. Just be careful with force march because you do have a limited amount of stamina, and once they run their stamina out, their combat effectiveness go down a lot. So you generally don't want to do that unless you have to, or in this case, he's at full stamina. He's not going to get attacked anyway, so it's not a big deal. All right, here we go. They are targeting us with everything they have, but yeah, you can see they got hit with everything we had. So let's go ahead and straighten this guy out. Straighten this guy out. Should be able to deal with that. We're going to move more of our infantry up. So it's just a matter of moving the lines, move the lines, move the lines, deal with the threats that come up, and then you should be good. So these guys did flee, but you'll notice that they do have the opportunity to recover some morale as they run, and then they can re-emerge. So just be careful. It's caught me several times where I thought I was in the clear, and then they came back and bit me in the butt. So let's go ahead and get these guys up. These musketeers are really close to fleeing. Let's actually try and get one more volley off, and then they should be out. There we go. Those guys broke as well. And now it's just the cannons that are left. So we can target them. Just have everybody target. Doesn't really matter. I don't think anybody's going to come back either. Their morale's so low because we killed so many units. And you can see we will take some damage here. Let's go ahead and double march. It doesn't matter if we have no stamina because it's the end of the battle anyway. So there we go. And then turn off volley fire so we can just get whatever shots in that we can and break them as soon as we can. There we go. They're gone, shattered. And let's go ahead and end. And we got 229 gold. We sustained 1,200 casualties, which is kind of a lot. But we can get most of those back if we do conscription. The only problem there is it's not going to replace our ammo that we just used. And it's also not helping us get our food back in order. So we'll have to figure that out. But we definitely don't have enough recruits to replace our losses. So we have to take conscription this time. And there we go. We'll get some more upgrades. But nobody's ready to move up to the next tier anyway. So we'll wait, replenish. We got a reload and move speed. That's really good. I'm actually going to swap this out because I'd rather have the reload and move speed. And then we can throw cover bonus probably on one of these guys that has a better rifle. We'll shift some equipment around. And then I think we have a recruit over here that doesn't have anything. So we'll just do that. So yeah, just throw items on wherever you can. And then once you start to get too many items that then you can't equip all at once, then it makes sense to start picking and choosing what you want to equip and what you want to sell or save for later. So this is all marked for sale. Let's try and get this second fight. Now, you'll notice we are still at a deficit in troops, so we're short just a little bit. Yeah, this is going to be tough. We have to fight them, otherwise they're going to get away. It's the same setup. It's 1 cannon and 4 infantry, so I'm just going to fight it again. Now, we're going to do something a little different here just to show you a couple different tactics if you don't like just sitting back. You can play much more aggressively if you want, so we're going to go with our front line, and I have them all in control group 1 so I can move them as often as I want. And I'm going to start here on the left side, line them up with this, make sure the lines are kind of straight, and then just move them forward. We're going to do the same thing with our cannons, and if you hold tab, you can see exactly where we set our lineup. So we obviously want to get up here onto this high ground if we can, and then we'll bombard them from there. And then we also want to move our general so that we can get morale as needed. So I'm going to speed this up till we get close. Now, it looks like we are actually going to be a little bit late to the party here, so we'll just take what we can get. Let's go ahead and get right here. We'll take the fence line. We don't want to fight them in this town, so what I'll probably do is engage them first, and then we will retreat and wheel our formation back, because they're going to have 100% cover in this town. There's no way these recruits can outshoot a higher tier unit while having even better cover, so not ideal. And also, we're about to walk our cannons right into infantry. That's not a good idea, so let's actually just have them stand and fight right here. Let's pour as much fire into these guys as we can. So we want to try and get these recruits to flee so that we can take their flank and then sweep them this way. We are getting out of the accuracy debuff. There we go. Now we can set them up and just start shooting. And I think what we'll probably do is maybe target this guy that's right in front of us, because we should be able to hit him without any problems at all. He's really close. And the closer you are, the more damage you'll do. So yeah, target him. Oh, why isn't my general out there? I forgot to move him back. Yeah, don't let your general wander out there by himself. All right, let's go ahead and start slowly moving back. These guys actually are on par, so they have decent cover bonus, but these guys have a much better cover bonus than we do, so we're going to fall back. Now, let's sprint back. Yeah, he's got better range than we do, so he will hit us, but that's fine. He said we want to move back where we have the advantage and they don't. And it looks like they're going to turn and shoot at these recruits. So I'm going to actually stop these guys and allow them to shoot down their flank. That'll help us out. These recruits are about to break. These recruits are not about to break. All right, I'm going to show you a little more of an advanced technique here. So let these guys get their volley off, and then we're going to use our general to harass these guys so that we can get them out of their formation. So if you go right on their flank, it causes them to turn, and now they just wasted that time. They're not reloading anymore, and you can come back. They think you're going to attack them. So there, we just got a free volley off. We'll do it again. And we got to watch out for this guy. He's going to shoot us, so we're going to go out this way instead. And we just get behind our unit so they can't shoot. And now we just got 2 volleys off in the time it took them to do 1 volley. So a little bit of a cheeky shot there. These guys are gone. We can move up and start hitting these land melees. So let's go ahead and move into the flank and start raining down some cannonballs down their ranks. Still doing a 2v1 here, and because their morale is so low, I'm going to push them out with a volley or a charge from our general. So let's go ahead and actually charge them this time. You can see we will take some losses here, but they're going to break. No big deal. And then we need to get this guy back so he's not in combat anymore. Now, we do need to go after that artillery because it's being a pain in the butt. We'll have these 2 units start to move up to handle that. Now, how are we doing over here? We're actually getting the upper hand on these guys. So I'm going to move back again because they turn to meet our Cranland recruits. We don't want that. Oh, wow, our cannons just got shot. I didn't realize they were in range, but yeah, that's going to happen if you don't watch it. I generally don't like to put my cannons so close to the front, but I rushed it a little bit. But like I said, it's just a different way to fight. I mean, they only have 100 units. We lost 12. Who cares? They're going to replenish that. 12 units is nothing. So let's get another unit in here to start shooting. These 2 guys need to run back here. And actually, I'm going to sprint these Fusiliers until they're in range, and then they can start shooting. And then let's get a side or a rear flank on the land melees. So it's going to be a 4v1 now. And then artillery, can we get them back? Now, if you have a unit that's fleeing, you'll notice their morale bars right here. And then in order for them to stop fleeing, they have to have morale right here. As soon as our general touches, it's going to boost their morale. And they also get a overtime morale tick. So if we leave the general with them, they will eventually get enough morale to turn around, and then they can start fighting again. Battle's over. We killed them all anyways, but there's a little bit of a tip for later in the game when you start to have some tougher battles. So we got another 229 gold from that and 1,000 losses. Again, we're really low on ammo, so we do need that, but we also need recruits. So I don't know. I should have looked to see what the town is that we're going to, what they have cheap. Because if they have cheap recruits, we would take the ammo. And if they have cheap ammo, we would take the recruits. So I don't really know, but by default, we want to take reservists. Actually, we have enough to cover. We should be fine. So we'll have to buy some recruits when we get to the town then. There we go. We actually have some people that did level up. So these recruits right here, they can go up a level. Let's go ahead and upgrade them. And if you click on them, you'll know that they have an upgrade because this highlights yellow, gold, whatever. We can't do any of these because you need 5 levels and we only have 3. We can go to Austrian Fusiliers or we can do Artillery Battalion. I'm going to go ahead with the Fusiliers because it is such a big difference to have these. We already have a few cannons and we also have another cannon that's going to be for free once we complete the mission. So we'll do that instead. The Fusilier can go to Veteran Fusilier with 4 levels. So we're almost there with this group. And then you'll also notice we have an upgrade with our officer so we can get an extra perk. So this is going to be a shooting regiment. I don't want anything that has to do with melee. So melee damage plus 15%, I don't care. Morale damage minus 10%, it's kind of helpful, but not really that big of a deal. We want accuracy, reload, and range. The other stuff, not as big of a deal. And then cavalry charge, we don't have cav in this. So we're going to actually not take any of these, and we're going to skip. So it's better to not take a perk than to take a perk that's not going to help you very much, or even worse, it's going to give you some debuffs. So just skip them if you don't get a good set. Same thing here for this artillery group. We would want to have mostly range and accuracy. I don't care as much about reload on artillery. It's all about range and accuracy, in my opinion. So that's what we want to get for that. We do have some decent items here. So iron ramrods and the tampions, these are really good for accuracy and reload. So we'll put that on this guy over here, which we would probably want to do accuracy above reload. So let's put that on him. And then we have another Fusilier that we just upgraded. Why don't we get rid of this stuff and give him all the stuff that helps us with shooting? There we go. And I guess we can keep the medicinal herbs there. That's probably not a big deal. Here we go. And then for, let's see, we have a regiment over here that doesn't have any items. So we're going to go ahead and give him the shepherd's axe. So if he ever gets charged by cav, he'll have an easier time fighting them off. Now, these we will not use. And then we also have the morale and melee damage. So plus morale is really good on recruits because they start off with a low morale. So probably a good idea. Actually, this needs to be on this guy, actually. So reload, move speed. I'd rather have cover and max range on our best shots. We'll swap that out. So reload. This guy can have the reload. Why don't we do that? I'm going to give him reload, reload, and reload. Oh man, this guy shoots fast. Okay, and then that means we need to put maybe the herbs on this guy. And that means we'll have 2 cheese and a bedroll. Yeah, that's fine. We could probably put the cheese on our cannon. Get this garbage out of here. Sell that. Morale and stamina. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, if you have extra items, this is what I was talking about before. This is when your min-maxi will start to come out. So if you have better items to swap with, you would want to do that. But just make sure everybody has something at least. So this is good enough. Let's go ahead and work our way up to the town. And in this case, we don't want to spend any of our money. Let's just seize their stuff and we'll sell it. It's not that big of a deal. So here we go. Yep, they have manpower here. That's actually, we made the right call then to take the ammo. So let's work our way up there. We got lucky on this one. Oh, wow, we got a bunch of free reservists. Well, not free, we had to spend some money, but reservists and weapon. We don't have a cavalry, so we can't use the cav sword, but we do have bayonets. So let's make sure we don't have rusty bayonets. We'll swap those out. All right, looks good. And let's go to town. Now in town, we are out of ammo completely. Oh, I did make the wrong choice. We took the reservist, didn't we? Yeah, we can get him cheap here. See, only 33 gold to buy 500. That's really cheap. We definitely need ammo, though. Is there a cheap ammo source nearby? There is not. Usually the ammos, it's like 3 balls. Yeah, like this, 3 cannonballs. This is the red one, though. We wanted the green cannonballs. So I don't see any cheap ammo, so we're just going to have to buy it here anyways. It's not a big deal. So we'll probably buy like 2 or 3 ticks. Let's go 3. And then we need to buy another regiment. Let's go to the barracks. We want another Crownland recruits. Let's see what else they have, just in case. But no, I think... Oh, you know what? We have 1 unit that we can put a gun on. The other one will not have a gun. So in this case, I am going to recommend buying the actual battalion. Because like I said, we don't have the equipment for this. We could buy the Crownland recruit. And then we can go to the foundry and buy our own cannon. We would need to spend 325 or less to be equal. And there's the 3-pound gun that they come with is only 75. So you basically would save a couple hundred if we did that. But if we do it now this way, we would get the cannon right away, which we want to do. So let's just take the cannon. There we go. And again, we can get some of that money back because we don't need these canister rounds. They're just hard to use. So let's go ahead and sell. This place does not have the debuff for item sales. So let's just get rid of all this stuff. Save the cannon. And we'll make sure they have enough money. We get 477. They have 786. But we're also not going to be using charge damage. We don't want to take minus accuracy, so we won't take spirit rations. We'll sell that. Beer's pretty good, though. It gives you a little bit of morale, so we'll keep these. Yeah, all these we'll keep. So we'll get another 522 out of that. Now, with that 522, we probably want to stack up reservists right now because it's cheap to do it now. And then in the future, when we do battles, we want to take ammunition, so that we're basically using our resources wisely. We also need to start planning for our next brigade. So go to the Noble Estate. Is there a cheap one here? Only one, and he's 71 gold, which is good. We'll take him. And he's going to run our 3rd brigade once we get enough money to open it up. So that's it. I think we can move on. We have 2 outposts to deal with. Let's deal with both of those. Now this one, we have an opportunity. We give up a little bit of ammo and we can get some kind of reward back if it succeeds. Moderate chance or likely. I'd rather spend a little bit more ammo and get a good chance of succeeding. And we got 3 weapons out of that. Really, really good. So the saber will sell. Leave that on the bottom. Socket bayonet's really good for countering charges. And then the Delpit musket will go well on one of our recruits that doesn't have a good weapon yet. So there we go. These guys will have what we need. Let's go ahead and swap that out. And then we'll sell these. Perfect. So we're looking really strong. Let's go to this next outpost. All right, next outpost, we can garrison to delay the HQ. We can put even more reservists to delay it even further, or we can dismantle and take some cash. I'm going to stand by what I said earlier. I'm a huge fan of delaying the HQ so we can have more time to run around and do our stuff. So I'm going to do that. That'll be 2 more weeks. It'll use up 800 of our reservists. We'll still have about 3,000 left. You can see the bar went down a little bit. We'll have more time. We also completed the last of our mission here to reinforce 4 outposts, and we get a per cop artillery piece. That reminds me, I forgot that we were going to get an artillery piece. We shouldn't have bought this one, but that's okay. This guy will be the first regiment of infantry in this new brigade, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, you can see this artillery is really good. You're not going to have access to this because this is a special unit you need to unlock with a quest. So don't worry about it. I could even delete it if we wanted to show you it's doable without it. Actually, why don't we do that? Not that it doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, we'll do it for the sake of this tutorial. I'll just pretend this doesn't exist, and then that you got a regular artillery unit. So now you'll notice right here we uncovered an encamped army. These guys are tough. We can't fight them yet, but we will have a chance to fight them before the end. Every map has 3 encamped armies, and they're scattered out throughout the map, so you don't know where they are unless you reveal them through one of these quests or you come across them. So in this case, we can come back to him later if we can build up our army strong enough. But for now, we still need to maintain our goal. We need to secure 5 more battlefields. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. That should be all of them. And if we can't get it on that, we need to come back here and do these 2. So hopefully we can get it. So let's come down to this battlefield. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of the things. There's a couple more stances. We showed the first 3. Drill allows you to gain veterancy at the cost of ammunition. It also gives you more visibility on the campaign map, and it also increases army replenishment. So if you took a bunch of losses and you need to replenish quickly, you can just go into training stance into drill, and then you'll gain XP while you're doing it. If you have a unit that's really close to leveling up and you want to level up before you go to the next battle, you could just drill for a day or 2, move them up, and then upgrade them. And it's actually a pretty big power spike if you do that. So, and then finally you have foraging. So foraging provides a reduction of provision consumption. So right now we're using about 8 per day. If we move while in provisions, in foraging, then our provisions go down to -3. It's a pretty big difference. So if you don't want to use up all of your food, then you would do that. It also increases your campaign visibility. It does cost you some move speed, so you move around slower. But, you know, if you're low on food, then you definitely should be moving around in foraging. So this one, we can commit reservists, or we can just leave them. We definitely want to commit reservists, and we got it. We got some of those guys back. We got some weapons. Perfect. We can outfit our last guy up here. So just because he's in reserve doesn't mean we can't change his gear still. So always make sure you do that, and then separate the stuff you're going to sell from the stuff that you're going to keep. So you can see right here, we'll have quite a bit of money when we go to our next town. So there we go. We will work our way over to these, and I'm going to do this. I'll edit this out, but let's move our way to the battlefield, probably in foraging stance because we're running kind of low. We need to stop at a town and buy some food if we come across one. So let's head out. Nice. We came across some supplies here, and we can get some provisions, which we need to do. We could also ransack the camp and fight a tough enemy army. Now, in your state, I don't know if you're going to feel comfortable doing this or not. I've got 200 hours in the game, and I've completed 100% of the achievements pretty much. So I feel very comfortable being able to fight this. Tough battles are actually quite tough, so just be careful. But we'll take some good weapons, and then we'll come in here and fight this army. They're actually pretty similar size to us. They probably have cav. Yeah, that's where most of their power is coming from, but that's going to be easy for us to counter. This is actually not that scary of an army. We have better cannons, and we have enough infantry to fight off their infantry. So before we fight, though, let's go ahead and equip some better weapons. If you hover your mouse over the weapons, they'll tell you what they specialize in. So, for example, these worn muskets get a negative modifier to accuracy, melee charge, and triple negative modifier to range. This Charville is the best weapon in the game that, other than the Jaeger sniper rifle, for range. So these things have a very good range. Generally, you want to put the best rifle on the unit that has the best accuracy. So right now, it's going to be these guys at 54. So we'll swap that out. Now his range goes up to 142, accuracy to 57. So pretty good there. And then we have a 75 gold musket and a 60 gold musket. So we could swap some of these out and just make sure we're using the best equipment possible. Yeah, looks like we are now. And then we'll save these for later because we still have some units to recruit and equip. So we'll be able to get 2 more. Right, I think that's it. Let's get in there. Actually, you know what? Because this is going to be a little bit tougher battle, I will take this. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend taking a tough battle if I were in your shoes, but I will try to show you some tips here for fighting. Now we have a few options here, and I think there's a couple ways to look at this. We could boost our artillery effectiveness by going on a hill, but there's no hills that are immediately in range. And getting back here, we're going to be getting shot at by their artillery the whole time while we're moving, and that's not ideal. So what I'm going to recommend in this case is let's put our artillery here in these fields. We'll spread them out a little bit, and then we want to set up our defense along this fence line so that we get pretty good protection. You'll notice that the enemy won't have any protection of their own as they get into musket range. So pretty good spot. Now we want to put our best units in the center because that's where the majority of the strike will come from. So I'm going to put my veteran muskets over here, or not veteran, but the Fusiliers. Our other Fusilier right here in the center. We've got one set of recruits on the left, one set of recruits on the right, and then we'll be ready to go. So let's go ahead and unlimber our cannons. We are in range with 2 of the cannons, so let's make sure these 2 cannons can shoot at the best possible target. Looks like they have a lot of recruits, but they do have some musketeers on the left. That's going to be our target then. So target the musketeers. Hopefully we get a good volley. No, we didn't. We got 16 kills, but they'll get more in the next one. Like I said, for some reason, their first volley is always terrible, and then it gets better after that. So let's go ahead and set up our defenses. So move these guys. We're going to have a little bit of a weird overlap there, but not really that big of a deal. I will have some overlap here because buildings give you 100% coverage. So we'll get even better coverage if we go there. Now, I am going to put these guys on this fence line, but most likely we'll move him out and swing him up this way. We'll move him from here, go to the right, and then up. That's most likely what we'll end up doing, but I don't know that for a fact yet, so we'll see. But we need to keep an eye on our artillery now. So we have 2 pieces of artillery that aren't able to shoot, but as soon as they get in range, we do need to change the targeting. And then what kind of cannons do they have? They have a 6-pounder. That's a little scary. They do some damage. Be nice. Be nice. Let's see what they do and who they're targeting. Yeah, they're targeting our Fusilier, and they missed. Wow. They missed their first volley. That's unusual for the AI. Usually they hit every shot. And here we are. We just missed our volley, unfortunately. All right, so we're going to be in range of the land meals with our low tier. There we go. So we'll just keep chipping them down. Now, as they get closer, we will want to focus down one unit and try and break them so that we aren't getting teamed up like a 4v1. They have more infantry than we do, so we need to try and even that as soon as we can. What we might want to do at this point, we might want to focus fire down this Cantonist recruits. If we can clear him off the field, then we can use these guys to flank and basically break their center and then start to work on their other units. They will probably cavalry charge us. You know what I'm going to do? I don't like this. This is bothering me. Let's fix our line. I don't like that little gap. Any little gap you have means that if they have an angle, they could shoot through it and they could shoot your... Oh, they're hitting our freaking general. All right. Yeah, if your unit's getting shot at, don't have anything behind it because you will get splash damage. But yeah, if you have a little gap, like this little gap could be an angle for them to shoot through and hit your artillery. And artillery is incredibly weak, but we don't want to give up our cover though. So we'll leave a little bit of a gap. That's not a big deal. All right, here we go. So we're focusing down Cantonist recruits. We want to get them out of here. I'm going to speed this up and then we'll get into musket range. Okay, here we go. You can see these recruits are just about to die. Or not die, but they're about to flee from morale loss. So one more volley and they'll be out. And then we can focus fire down the next unit and the next unit. And we just want to concentrate our power on one unit as much as possible, because that means that they won't even get a shot off. Look, this guy's at 0 kills. He's at 11 kills now, but because his morale's so low, his combat effectiveness is minus 25%. He's gone. He did literally nothing. Next, we want to target this. Let's get all the recruits out of here so that we can swing our army this way and then team up on these high tier units, because the recruits have low morale. So it's going to be easier to break them. And then we have pretty good cover here. We should be able to survive. Yeah, see, they're ganging up on these Fusiliers, which is fine. They should be able to handle it. There we go. Come on, Cantonist. All right, here we go. They are charging us soon. So I'm going to clear targeting. Let's hold fire. We're going to have our volley ready to go. Okay, so here, I'm going to pause this for a second and explain. So hold fire. They're going to come in. I know I kind of did it before, but usually you want to give them about this much distance before you click. The closer they are, the more damage you're going to do. So I'm going to unpause it. We're going to hold my mouse right here, and as soon as they get to here, we're going to click, and then we should be able to wipe them out. Ready, fire. See their muskets come down, and point blank shot just absolutely obliterated them. And look at our kills, went up to 377 for this Fusilier group. So really good. Cantonist recruits are out. Let's focus down the last Cantonist recruit. And I'm going to re-enable their fire. And let's go ahead and get this unit of muskets angled this way so they can get some shots in on these land melees. And we still need to deal with these guys, but that's fine. We have cannons helping out. Oh, they shot our cannon. I didn't realize our cannon was in range, but that's fine. We'll get him back. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a little bit sketchy to have your cannons so close to the front line because they can sneak cheeky shots like that. But not a big deal. We'll get him back. All right, these guys fled. Actually, we have another cav charge coming in. Let's go ahead and hold fire. We may not get it in time. Oh, we're going to get it just in time. Come on, come on, come on. They just got it. Oh, no, they didn't get it off, unfortunately. But Fusiliers are decent in melee, so they should be able to hold their own. Let's get our cannons shooting at the musketeers and try and clear them out. Now, we need to... Don't turn all of your army, because these guys might come back and then you'll provide a flank for them. So you don't want to do that. Looks like our cannons are out of ammo. These guys are completely out of ammo. So yeah, that sucks, but it is what it is. These cannons should come back. I don't know what they're doing. They have the morale they need to come back, but they just don't want to come back. Whatever. All right, let's finish this off. I think this is pretty easy to finish the rest. We're just going to speed this up. But one thing I forgot to mention, you can use your cavalry, your commander, to sneak around and try and charge their artillery. He moves pretty fast when he's on full sprint. You can also use roads to move even faster. So I'm going to move on the road here at a full sprint. We got a few units that came back, but we'll deal with them in a second. You can see how fast this guy moves on the road. It's pretty crazy. And then we get close enough, charge, and then we'll follow the road back so we don't lose our commander. But yep, pretty easy way to deal with enemy artillery. You can't do it in the early game because they always keep reserves back of at least one cav unit, sometimes even more. And then we have to be careful. These guys, they might come back and attack us. Now, actually, that's one more thing I didn't talk about. You might be wondering why we're not attacking these guys as they flee. The more units that survive on the enemy side, the more loot you get from battle. The more kills you get, the more XP you get. So it's a matter of, do you need XP or do you need loot? And right now, we absolutely need loot. We do need XP as well, but we want to get loot more than we get XP because we're going to run out of money here. We want to get our 3rd Brigade up and running and filled out completely, and then we'll be in good shape. So there's another army down. And I think on this one, let's see how many casualties we took. 6 is, yeah, that's plenty. We have plenty of reservists. We probably want to take ammunition and money. So 1,000, we can definitely start our 3rd Brigade. And then when we get to the next town, we should be able to hire another unit as well. So we got a artillery perk. We only want to take range and accuracy. Range and minus charge. Artillery will never charge, so that's not even a debuff for these guys. It's just a straight 10% range bonus. So now we have 15 and 10. That's a 25% bonus to their range, but it's not just how far they can shoot. It's actually more than that. So as I said before, the closer the enemy is to you, the more accurate you get. So even if you shoot, like if I shoot at 500 meters and that's my max range, you're going to do, you know, I don't know, 30% of your damage potential. If your max range is 1,000 and you shoot at 600 meters, your damage potential is not 30 anymore. It goes all the way up to like 70 or 80. It's a big difference. So having max range just means that you do more damage at the same distance that you would have been at. So always good to have that maxed out. We do have quite a few new items here. I'm going to go through this and then I will come back and explain what I did. I just realized I had a light socket bayonet equipped. So these skinny bayonets are really good at charge, not so good at melee. So when I say melee, I mean that's the damage you do when you're just standing there trading blows. Charge is when you actually charge the enemy. So when we're playing defense, we will never charge the enemy. No, I don't want to say never, but we will rarely charge the enemy. The vast majority of the time, you're going to be using your melee stat, not your charge stat for this army composition. If you're doing offensive melee, then yeah, you want to have a high charge stat at the expense of your melee stat. It's more important. So yeah, we swapped out our light socket bayonet for one of the regular socket bayonets. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's move up to these other battlefields, and then we'll talk about what we do after we get all of our bonuses and what to focus on. All right, we came across one of the slums objectives. These ones can have some pretty good outcomes. In this case, we get a free musician. Now, the foreign musician is the worst of the three, in my opinion. I rarely ever use this item. The bagpipe is good for, I believe it's charge damage and morale. And the field musician, I think, is stamina and morale or something. So depending on what you're going for, you can go either one of these top two. I usually like the field musician. So that's going to give us, yeah, morale and move speed, actually. That's what it was. The other one is charge. I think it's charge and morale. So +6 move speed is really good to have. We could equip that on one of our units over here. Or, you know what, it'd be really good on one of our recruits to make sure that they don't run. And then also we can get rid of this minus move speed item. I don't like using those unless I absolutely have to, so we'll throw that on him. So yeah, he goes from 20 to 26 move speed, basically 50% more. Now, we are getting chased here. I don't know if this guy's going to actually want to fight. Nope, he thinks we're too strong, so he's going to run. So we'll take the fight. Now, I'm not going to show much from this battle, but one tip you want to keep in mind, if you have a unit that's on a hill, they can get shot at from a unit. Like for example, normally these units would block your artillery from being shot at. But because you're on the hill, you actually are a separate entity. You're like a level above, and so you are able to be shot from the ground. So if you want to block that, you need to have your other unit on the hill too to block that, or just move your lineup a little closer so they're not in range. So yeah, I'm going to do the same stuff I've been telling you about. Punch a hole, start to fold them up from one side or the center out, and then just work your way out like that. Pretty easy stuff. There we go. Pretty easy fight there. We took almost no losses. Like I said, once you get a few levels up on your units, your artillery gets a little more accuracy on them. There's not a whole lot the enemy can do to you in this stage until you get some of those tough battles, but we're not there yet, so you should have very little problems here. Now, we did get some good items here. We got another spontoon we can use on our recruits. We got a tobacco ration, which is really good on artillery because it gives them higher accuracy. And then the rest of the stuff is junk that we will sell. We'll take the money and let's head to the next town. Also, the final recruit here that had the spontoons, he is going to be a fusilier now. I will keep the spontoon on him because we did get another one. So we'll just equip both of these guys. And then this guy's actually going to veteran fusilier. So you can see his accuracy goes from 25 to 35. It is a very, very important difference. So 10% accuracy basically means he's going to do a significant amount more of damage. So the sooner we can get these guys, our front line to there, pretty much there's nothing the enemy can do. And then we just hold the line long enough for artillery to beat everybody else down. So that's kind of the game plan here. And here's another encamped army. So we know where 2 of them are now. And we still have a lot of time. We might actually, because we got lucky with the HQ delays, we might have time to clean all these guys up. We still have over 100 days. Yeah, 110 days. And we have our 3rd brigade up. We need to fill him out, which we should be able to do next time we get to a town. We should have enough money to do that. So let's keep working our way up. We got another battlefield here. We could rob the graves, but you take a massive amount of attrition. Not worth it. Just let it go. We have 2 more battlefields, and they're both up here. So we should be able to do that. There is a convoy here I want to check out. We just don't want to go near the HQ and accidentally bump into them. So let's take care of these. Yeah, this one we can take $100. Or we can take 125 and a very high chance of fighting a weak enemy field army. Again, don't think of field armies as a problem. Think of them as loot. You want to get as much loot as you can, so fight as many times as you can, especially easy ones like this. So they have 1 cannon, 4 infantry. This is going to be a massacre. Now, I'm going to show you a couple more tips in here, but let's get in there. Now, our Cranland recruits are the only unit that is not a fusilier out of our infantry. So we want them to be in the center of the action. Oftentimes, your recruits will be all the way to the right of your units down here, and they basically will, when you drag their unit out, it'll go from left to right. So like this guy's here, 2nd, 3rd, and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is you want to put your recruits in a spot where you know they will get some action. They'll get as much kills as they can so that they can level up sooner. If you keep putting them on the periphery of the battle, they won't get kills, and then they're just not going to get XP. So another thing, so these fusiliers, these guys are the best troops that we have, and they have the best guns and equipment that we have. So we don't want him necessarily to get all the kills because he's already upgraded to the max tier. He can still get some upgrades. He can go up to level 9 and he'll get slight boosts to his stats. But the problem is every kill that he gets is a kill that is not being gotten by another unit that doesn't have the max tier. So you probably want to keep him on the periphery, maybe not really shooting too much. I mean, you don't want to handicap your army and take a bunch of damage unnecessarily, but like I said, try and think about who should be getting these kills. Same thing with your cannons. If you've got a really strong cannon that's just going to obliterate everybody, just put them on hold fire and make sure your smaller cannons get most of the kills, if it's not going to cost you too many casualties to do that. So that's another tip that I wanted to mention, because I've noticed sometimes I get to the end of the campaign and I have a unit that's a level 9 that has way more kills than he could even use. And then I have a bunch of recruits that didn't get any action because they're off to the side. So a really good way, if you want to get a lot of XP, put your unit that needs to get the kills into a tight column formation and just have them charge a unit that's retreating. They'll move faster in column formation, and then they will get infinitely more kills in melee than they will if they just shoot. So this, we're probably going to get targeted by these cannons, so that's going to hurt a little bit, but I just, like I said, just wanted to demonstrate something. Like I said, we will get less loot by doing this, but you'll see when these guys have like 1,000 kills at the end, they'll gain like 4 levels or 3 levels at once. Pretty incredible. They shattered, but just because they're shattered doesn't mean you can't keep killing their units. As long as they have units alive, you can keep hitting them. So let's go take out these cannons so we don't lose all of our recruits. But yeah, you can see 600 kills. Let's see how many levels we got off of that. All right, here we go. So 1 level, 2 levels, probably going to get a 3rd level off of that. No, not quite. But 2 levels, so that puts him up into Fusilier category, so we can get him leveled up. Now, it only takes 3 points to upgrade, so he actually is in rank 1 veterancy of a Fusilier, so he's only 3 levels away from getting veteran status. So like I said, just a nice little trick. If you want a unit to level up really fast, have them charge at a unit that's already fleeing and then get as many melee kills as they can. Just be aware of cannons, be aware of spare cavalry roaming around, and be aware of units that have routed that are getting their morale back that will turn and start shooting you. So you got to be careful for that. Let's pick a perk here. So again, accuracy, range, and reload. Everything else is going to be wasted. So we don't want any of these. These are all really bad for our army composition. So we're going to skip it again, just the way the dice roll sometimes. That's 2 perks in a row that we couldn't take. Let's talk for a minute about itemization for artillery. One of the most important items you can get is these limber chests. So ammo consumption reduction, basically for every shot, let's say if you can get 20 shots, right? So 20 shots per battle. If you take this, you basically reduce that by 25%. So you can shoot 25% more shots. And also, if you have a battle where you don't go through all of your ammo, you actually, instead of using, say you would have used 40, you would use only 30, right? 25% less. So it saves on your ammo consumption, and it stacks with the perk that we get. So we're going to put our ammo consumption on the long range one because this guy has the most ammo drain. The second one is going to be this one because he has the second longest range. And then obviously it trickles down from there. Let's see. And then we also want to get faster reload. So these items are pretty good, these reloads. I already showed you this one right here, that elevation screw. And then obviously there's those doctrines that can increase your range and accuracy. So these are pretty good if you can get it. This will go on both infantry and artillery. So we could move that over if we want. I'm going to keep it here because these guys take advantage of the cover bonus quite a bit. So we'll leave that alone. And then a final point before we move on to the town. We can, let's say if we have items that we want to equip, but we don't have equipment slots, we only start with 3 per regiment. We could increase the equipment slots by spending money. It's 50, 100, 150, and so on. I don't recommend doing this unless it's a really, really, really good item on a very experienced regiment that you have. So for example, these artillery, this one is really good. So it would be worth it to spend it if we got a good enough item. Or these veteran fusiliers would be worth it. In this case, I recommend saving as much money as you can. Don't buy items, don't buy equipment expansion. Get as many units as you can, as fast as you can, so that you can have a full army, start leveling them up, and going from there. So let's get back to town and working on that. So here, let's check the barracks. They have, unfortunately, more expensive troops, so I probably won't recruit from here. We can, however, sell some items. So let me go through and sell all of the equipment that we are definitely not going to use, which is going to be non-equipable items, probably muskets, and anything that has to do with cavalry. And they don't even have enough money to pay for all that, so we have to spread it out a little bit. There we go. And you can see we've got 2,200 gold here. We are in very good shape. We need to find a place that actually will sell us some units for less than this, because these are really expensive. We could, but I think it's 10% more. Yeah, I'd rather not. I'd rather save the money, because we could pump that money into upgrading equipment and all that. There's a town over here that has actually cheaper infantry. So if we go there, it'll save us some cash. But before we go there, let's actually buy a little bit of food, since we have plenty of cash. And then we need to get up here and do these 2 battlefields. And then we'll head to I'm going to try and pronounce this. Stuhlweissenberg. All right, so let's head up here. All right, this is a good one. So we can either get some reservists or some weapons. We already have weapons for everybody, so I'm going to take reservists instead. And then we'll move to the next battlefield. And then this one's forcing us to commit reservists, and we lost them. So there we go. Easy come, easy go. We did get our doctrine here that reduces ammo consumption in battle by 35%. So really important to have that. We have minus 25 right here on our cannon. We stack another 35 on top of that. That's minus 60%. So we can shoot 60% more ammo. We use 60% more in a match where we don't use all of our ammo. So very, very good. We should be secure on our ammo from now on. Let's now move to the town and then try and get our army maxed out. And we'll talk about how to prepare for the end game. Oh, we came across another army. He tried to run as a patrol, so we were able to catch him. I do want to take recruits, but let's finish this battle first. All right, I'm not going to show much of this battle, but I did want to talk about one more concept, and that is saving some units for reserve. So battle like this, not really a big deal, because there's no way they're going to break our line. We have better units. We have more units than they do. But if you were to fight a really tough battle, let's say they have 50% more or 100% more units than what you have, you would want to keep a unit in reserve like this so that you can move back and forth and fill any gaps that were to form. If you were to commit him to the flank, you might get a little more damage in on that flank and be able to roll them up at the expense of losing your center. If you lose your center, they will push through and kill all of your artillery. That would be game over for you. And even if it wasn't game over, it would be really, really bad. So ideally, on a tough fight like this, or for example, we want to get XP on all of our units that aren't maxed out, we're going to keep our veteran fusiliers in reserve so they don't get kills unless it's absolutely necessary. So in this case, we have a very strong fortified position all around the edge here. You can see we've got cover bonuses on everybody. So we're just going to sit back, let them run into us. We'll destroy them with our artillery, and then that's that. Keep these guys in reserve. And then if there's an opportunity to come out, if we know they're not going to break through, you can flank, or you can keep them in here to replace. Let me show you what that looks like, actually. So like these guys are taking some damage. I'm going to move down over here. And you always want to move your reservists like this in column formation, because they're way too slow if you move them in a full line. And sometimes if their line is like way out here, they'll get shot, they'll stuck through, and then they'll block your units from shooting, and they'll get shot at by the enemy. So keep them in column formation. But you can see here it's not needed this time. But let's say if we wanted to replace these guys because they were getting down to maybe 800 or 700 troops, they get really low, just move your formation on top of them. Once this guy shoots his load, charge, get them back out, and now you just did an easy swapperoo. And they've got a full volley ready to go, and then they just, blast them. These guys are ready to repair. They'll get their stamina back, they'll get some of their morale back, and you can put them back in on a flank or something. That's kind of how you do that. And one of our artillery pieces did level up, so he goes to our Austrian field artillery. This is the level 5. Next is going to be either the Dutch field artillery or the Austrian veteran artillery. Now, this is something that's kind of important. If you're not sure what to upgrade, you have to look at both of them and compare the stats. So for example, when we go from the Austrian field artillery and we go to the Dutch, actually, let me back out and go back in so it updates their stats. There we go. So if we go here, you can see they get a little bit more morale. They get 50 more troops. And for artillery, every 25 troops means 1 cannon. So if they go from 150 to 200, they are basically going from 6 cannons to 8 cannons. So you get basically 25% more cannons, something like that. They do lose a little bit of accuracy. They lose a lot of reload time. So they're slower to reload. They're not as accurate, but you have 2 more cannons to make up for that. Now, 2 more cannons, I believe, means that they use more ammunition too, so that's something to keep in mind. And then their movement speed's a little slower. Whereas these veteran artillerists, they get more morale, they get the same amount of troops, so it's still the same 6 cannons, but they're more accurate, they reload faster, they have more stamina. My personal opinion is the veteran artillery are the way to go. If you have a smaller caliber or something that with canister round that you want to have in the front rank, you probably want to have more cannons just to get as much firepower as you can per volley. So the Dutch field artillery would be good for that. But aside from that, my personal opinion, accuracy is vital for artillery, and you should take it at every chance you can get and avoid losing it when possible. So that's how that works. And then same thing here when you look at the Fusiliers. Let me go to the Fusilier actually. So if you look at the Fusiliers, if you go to the veteran Fusiliers, they get a big increase to accuracy and reload. They also get a little morale and move speed, but they get no increase in their melee damage. So the Grenadiers are the opposite. They get a slight boost to reload and melee. They do lose 200 troops because Grenadiers are generally more elite, smaller amount of troops. A very big morale boost, and they get a huge charge boost and a little bit of melee boost. So these guys are much better in melee. They're also better at defending against charges. But for what we're doing, we're going to hold the line. These guys are just fine. They will hold the line pretty close to what the Grenadiers do. The Grenadiers are much better on offense than they are on defense. So I would go with the Austrian veteran Fusiliers in this case. All right, let's keep moving along. So at Stuhlweissenberg, we've got Cranland recruits for 300 gold. So that's obviously what we're going to take. I think we need 3. So we'll take all 3. And we still have plenty of cash to spare. But let's go ahead and put equipment on these guys. I'm going to do this offline. All right, so we just threw whatever junk we had on them. Ideally for recruits, you want to get their morale up because they're pretty easy to break. Outside of that, it doesn't matter too much. You just want to get them leveled up as fast as you can so that they're not so terrible. But yeah, we got beer, more stamina, morale, and then just basically whatever else we had. Now, we want to sell off some equipment here, but I did notice we picked up a better cannon. We have a 6-pound iron. We can upgrade one of these 3 pounds, and we can sell all this stuff off now. We probably don't want to sell the beer, though. That's a good item to keep. But all this other stuff we can sell. Let's see how much money we get. So we'll pick up another 350. That puts us at 1,700. Now, the next thing, after you max out your army here, not max out, I mean, we could technically do a new brigade. I don't recommend going above 3 for the Act 1. You don't need it. And it's a good idea to not have a bunch of trash units on the field. It's better to have higher tier units, like a core group of high tier units, and then you expand out slowly from there. You don't want to go with 1 or 2 brigades. That's just too small unless you're really good at the game. I think 3 is like the sweet spot. So go for that. Once you get that maxed out, then you want to max out your cannons. So save your money because cannons are incredibly expensive, and find a big town. So if you look at this town, this is what a big town looks like. This is what a small town looks like a little village, basically. There's a big town. There's like a medium-sized town. So this big town, it doesn't always have a foundry, I think. Well, maybe it does, but it's more likely to have a foundry. So if you come in here, you could see we could spend quite a bit of money. And then the best cannons in the game are going to go for like 3 grand each. So you do need to save your pennies and make sure you have some money when you come to these. Let's take a look at what we currently have, though. We have this special cannon that you wouldn't normally get. We've got this one that we started with. It's a 600 coin bronze 6-pounder. We have an iron 6-pounder for 300, and then this piece of junk. So if we come in here, we could get a iron 12-pound for 600, and we get 2 of those, and that would replace, I think, obviously the Liechtenstein we're not going to replace because this is almost literally one of the best cannons in the game. This is also a decent cannon, the one we started with. These 2 we could easily replace, and actually let's just get rid of them. So we'll throw them in our inventory, we'll sell them, and then we'll figure out what we want to buy. So we have 1,800 to spend. We can go up to 900. One thing that you want to consider is these bronze cannons have a decent range. Not as much damage, though, compared to, say, like a howitzer. You see this howitzer does 40 damage, but it's got a slower reload rate and a shorter range. So these are really good anti-personnel. These are okay. They're decent anti-personnel. They're much better at range, so like taking out enemy artillery. But in the current meta, I don't really recommend taking out artillery with artillery. You're better off just wiping out their army and then pushing them with cavalry or foot troops. So in my opinion, these howitzers are probably the way to go. So let's pick up, I wouldn't even mind 2, even this dumpy little one, but maybe we'll do that, and then we'll do another one of these bronze cannons. That's actually solid. So we'll do that. We're going to swap this out. So another bronze cannon. We'll go with a howitzer there, and then we should be in good shape. So let's take another quick look. We have full 3 brigades. We don't need any more troops. We have just about as good a cannons as we can get for Act 1. When you get to Act 2, you have access to a little bit better, and then Act 3, you'll have access to all the good stuff. So this is about as good as we're going to get right here. We don't need to spend any more money on this stuff. However, we do want to spend some money on getting our cannons outfitted properly. So we need some more limber chests. Let's get these 2. It doesn't really matter what kind they are. We just want to get something so that they're not blowing through all of their ammo so quickly. So there we go. And there you go. And then after that, what else would you want to spend your money on? There's a couple options. You could continue to boost up your front line's accuracy and reload and range and all that. So usually a good idea to check out the gunsmith for better weapons. So you remember, we already have 1 Charville. This one's pretty expensive, but it's got good range. So you could see if they have any more down here, and you could see they don't. So I probably wouldn't spend too much money on any of this other stuff. You could go to the powder house and try to buy these chevaux de frise. So the only real threat that you're going to have are light infantry, which we'll just have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. And the other is cavalry. Chevaux de frise, as long as you're not moving, you get a charge resistance of 25%. And since you're not moving, you have a brace. It stacks. It basically, when somebody charges you, these things completely annihilate cavalry. So you don't need anything to counter cavalry other than a line infantry that's not moving and a chevaux de frise. Because the AI is dumb, they just charge your front line anyways. It's just kind of, you know, what they do. Oh, and then the other thing is you can come in here to the staff college. This is probably my favorite building in the whole game, aside from maybe the cannon foundry. You find really good items in here in the staff college. So you can get reload and max range for your artillery. You can get accuracy. There's stuff that increases your veterancy gain. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can get. If you have light infantry, there's really good items in here. If you have infantry that wants to go into melee, there's good stuff. So just kind of browse around and come up with your own build. Like I said, my personal opinion, accuracy and range on artillery, accuracy and reload and range on front lines. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about all this stuff. Just look for accuracy, look for reload, and look for range. If it's not any of those 2, don't even look at it. That should get you straight. Now, I do want to get more accuracy on our Liechtenstein. So what I did is I bought one of these regimental staffs that give us +8 accuracy. It does make our reload a little slower, which I don't mind. This guy blows through ammo way too fast anyways because his range is so far. What we want to do is put him in, but I don't want to take out any of these items because these are all really good items. So what we're going to do is hit this plus button, and that's going to increase our inventory, and we can now equip that. And you can see instead of 50, the next one is 100, and then 150, 2, and 250. So it gets really expensive to expand your slots. You probably want to do this evenly, so get all of your artillery to have a 4 slot, then you go 5, everybody gets 5, and then 6, and so on. Same thing with your infantry. If you start to get good items that you want them to equip, just equip one at a time, and then go down the line so you're not spending a bunch of money on everybody. So like in this case, we could increase the slots here. They don't have a rations. We can throw a ration on there. I think most of these guys, this guy does not have a ration either. We can throw that on there. So there we go. We blew through most of our cash, but we're good. We're sitting well on all of our mana. We don't need to worry about anything else really. We just need to go take some fights. Also, we came across the other HQ. So now we know where all 3 of them are. We have a couple options. We could go explore the rest of the map, continue to resolve these issues, the convoys, outposts, all that stuff. We can go to different towns and try and buy stuff. The other thing is, now that we don't really need to spend as much time collecting our stuff, we already have everything that we need. Now is a good time to start raiding. If you don't need this settlement anymore, like let's say if you knew you were going to come back here and buy more cannons, you don't want to raid because then they'll hate you, or you won't even be able to access it. In this case, we go ahead and raid, doesn't matter. So we're going to get a bunch of money and a bunch of food from them. And this is what I was telling you about earlier in the match. If you don't have a lot of units, you're just wasting the raid. So you get money and food based on how many troops you have in your party. So if you only have 4 or 6 from the very beginning, it takes a lot of time and you don't get much out of it. So I don't recommend raiding early. Raid when you have a big army. We did get some good items here, and we can spend our money because we just stole money from them to be able to equip this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some of these on, and we should be good to go. Now we want to get these XP bonuses actually and throw them on these recruits instead of our Fusiliers because they need the XP more than anybody else. There we go. That looks good. And then on our Fusilier, we can throw an axe. And this guy needs a Tempion. There we go. So, like I said, you just kind of go one by one, fill out all the equipment, and then you're going to be just fine. So in this case, like I said, I'm pretty experienced in the game. I'm going to start clearing out these armies, and then we'll get ready for the final HQ battle. If there's any new stuff, I'm going to come up, but I think I pretty much covered most of it. Let's get to the HQ battle as fast as we can without spending too much time grinding this stuff out. Now, there are some good items that you want to look out for. I mentioned the Chevaux de Frise is really good against cavalry. These are also decent, these earthworks. They don't give you a ton of charge resistance, but most of the time your biggest threat is from getting shot at, so other infantry or other cannons. And these earthworks give you a cover base bonus, so even if you're in the middle of nowhere, there's no cover to be had, it will give you a plus 20% just right off the bat. If you do have something to go up against like a hedgerow, that would put you up at maybe 60%. This adds another 20 on top of that, so you would have basically those two added together. You can get pretty close to 100% without having to be in terrain that would give you 100%. So these are really good to have. Like I said, reload and accuracy. These cylindrical ramrods are really good. Very expensive items too, so I wouldn't buy them, but if you get them as loot, make sure you equip it. And then all this other stuff we're just going to sell as junk. And we've got a perk on our new officer, and he can take nothing. Man, we're getting screwed on these things. But that's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes you get all the perks right away, and sometimes you don't get any good ones. Now, one more thing, the final army, this isn't the final army, but these encamped armies are fairly similar. And I don't know what armies you're going to be going up against because it's randomized who your enemy is. In this case, we're going up against Prussia, and they have quite a few cannons. So we'll kind of talk about tactics based on who you're going up against. Against multiple cannons like this, the idea is to break their front line as fast as you can, and then get to the back line where their cannons are and try and shoot them. Charging them, if we had light cav, we could sneak them in. If we send our general, he's just going to get picked off by these cannons. There's no way we could survive that, so that would not work. So we just need to clear the front line quickly and then push back. So we're just going with a straight line. There's not a whole lot of tactics I think we can pull here unless we try to counter battery, and that's just not a good idea to do with these low tier units. So what we're trying to do, well, yeah, just your best chance is to pick off their expensive units. So veteran musketeers, those guys are really tough to fight against, so we want to fight them. They've already taken 200 losses there, so that'll be good. And then by the time they get to our line, we're going to start pushing up. See, these cannons are almost ready to open up on us. And we just have to take it. It is what it is. This guy is trying to shoot. Yeah, we don't want that. Get back here before you get killed. Right. Yeah, veteran muskets are almost gone. They haven't even gotten a single shot off on us. They have 7 front line. We have 8. So we do have an advantage in numbers. We don't have any cavalry, so we are short on that. But like I said, the strategy here is just to destroy the front line. And since we have a numbers advantage, when they reach us, we will have a flank on them. We just need to weather the storm when they send their cav. And then it's just a matter of getting to their cannons and blasting them. So again, we're going to continue. We'll just keep pouring fire on these veteran musketeers. By the time they reach us, they won't have much left. And it should be a pretty easy win. Whoever's getting shot at, they probably need to cover up, get into some cover. These guys have a little bit. I don't really have anywhere to put them though, because they're recruits. So I guess we'll just have to take it. What we should do is move our general down here so that he can boost the recruits, make sure they hold the line. As long as they don't flee, they don't have to win their fight, they just need to not lose. That's the biggest issue. And then these guys are definitely losing. They're less than half now. And dropping. And it's always good when they cross lines like this, so that when we shoot at this, it should hit both. Yep, there he goes. Oh no, we got a volley off. That's what it was. Okay, done. These guys are pretty much toast. Yep, like I said, keep shooting at that veteran musket. Get him out so we can 3v1 on that side. There we go. Their recruits already ran, so now we're getting even more numbers advantage. These guys are gone. Focus on the other veteran musket. These still have range. They have range. Just your main job at this point is to look at your line and make sure everybody is shooting. Make sure everybody's in range. There's another one gone. So it looks scary. They had a pretty scary looking army, but it's really not that bad, especially if you hold firm and stick to your game plan. So these guys should be fleeing soon. Yeah, the veteran muskets are the most dangerous one there, but as you can see, they can't hold. Now we need to push. So these guys, we can get a flank on there, but probably not necessary. What I'm going to do is move them up. Yep, not necessary. Move them up. These recruits are coming back. Move up. Oh, their whole line's gone. All right, move up. Let's get our cannons on these guys and make sure that they don't get a shot off. We just want to blast them. All right, these guys are holding firm, so let's go ahead and pour some extra fire on them. All right, here come the cav. We need to be ready for that. So turn, get your brace going. All right, go ahead and turn and face their direction. These guys need to face. All right, go ahead and sprint if you have to. Oh, crap, we're out of ammo. Yeah, we ran out of ammo. All right, what else? Prussian musketeers, we need to get them out. Oh, we're gonna have a full volley. I should have held. I didn't get back in time. That actually worked out pretty well. They're gonna shatter on impact. Yeah, there's nothing they could do there. All right, let's keep pushing. So let's get all these guys. Actually, these 4 can push up. The worst thing you can do is freak out and start sprinting and not holding your ground. Change our targeting here. Turn off volley fire so we can get as much damage out as we can before they reach our line. And just switch it back before they hit. We should be able to take them out. Yep. Very easy fight. Got that. We're still getting a 2v1 there, so we're good. Alright, we still got cannons with ammo left. So who do we target? Probably their artillery that are just about to flee. Yep, just keep pushing. At this point, we could probably sprint. Don't think it matters too much. These guys are still alive? Yeah, I guess they're in cover. See, this shows you the power of being in cover. It really does make a big difference if you can handle it. I guess I could have moved up a little there, but that's fine. Okay, good. Push up, push up, push up. Make sure these guys don't come back, but let's start targeting and just make sure everybody has a target. Perfect. So I think we just speed it up and finished it off. Yep, there they go. They all fled. So that was a tough looking battle, but as you can see, if you have the right strategy and you knock them out, knock out their biggest threats one at a time, their line will just start to collapse. Now, because this was an encamped army, we're going to get all the usual stuff, but we also get a doctrine at the end. I don't see anything particularly good here, so not a big deal. We will take troop replenishment, and then you get to choose a doctrine. Sometimes it's turds, and you just don't have a good, like this one's not very good. Reservist cost, who cares? Reveal all settlements, I guess is okay. I'm going to take campaign visibility. Unfortunately, we didn't get any accuracy or range. That's what I was hoping for, but that's all right. All right, I'm going to keep going. We got 2 more of those to deal with, and then we'll deal with the HQ. And one thing I did forget to mention, if you're not comfortable, don't take those fights. If you want to at least try it, just create a save file right before you go into battle. And if you lose it really badly, you can just reload. Don't worry about saving and losing battles and stuff. Just try it. Maybe fix your mistakes the second time you go back in. And if you can't win the battle overall, just load again and then don't engage the next time you load. You can get out of the battle that way. This is a really good item for your artillery. As you saw in that last battle, one of our cannons actually ran out of ammo. So a supply wagon basically follows. You can send them wherever you want. You can reload ammo. I don't know how much ammo it has, but it seems to be enough for at least 1 regiment to keep them fighting. It can't resupply your whole army. Like if everybody's shooting, it's not going to resupply everybody, but it's enough for 1, maybe 2 regiments. So that's actually pretty good, especially for the cannons when we've already been running out of ammo. Here's another HQ battle. It looks like it's pretty much the same thing. 4 cannons, a couple cavalry, and the rest are infantry. I'm just going to fight this real quick offline. All right, another win. Pretty much played out the same as the previous battle. And it looks like the equipment's not particularly interesting, so we'll keep going. And in terms of perks, prisoner conscription effectiveness is pretty good. So basically when you try and conscript prisoners for manpower, you get 60% more than what you would normally have gotten. Campaign move speed and force march is decent if you use force march a lot. We don't have enough food to do it a lot. Regiment veterancy gain +3 when recruited it's okay. Recruitment cost plus 10%. I guess that's not that big of a deal. This is not impactful. I would say this is okay. I'd rather have this one. It does hit our morale by 5%, but I think it's worth it to get a lot more prisoners after battle. And on our way to pick on the encamped army, we found this tiny field army, so we're going to take both of these out real quick. And you can see, because our artillery is so strong, we basically didn't have to fight much and got 333 losses. But we'll also get, you can see our perk here. We get a huge amount of reservists back for this. So 2,300. We'll get our man pool power stocked back up, and then we'll start taking ammo again. All right, time for the final encampment army. And this one looks even smaller than the others. Yeah, our artillery is getting stronger and stronger with each battle. And so we were able to wipe out their artillery, and then their line got smashed before they even touched us. For the most part, most unit loss was 240. and it's, yeah, we pretty much wiped them out. So you could see the strength of having very, very strong firing lines and then having artillery to support, and just weaken the line where you need to weaken it, and then the rest will fall. And we'll pick up another doctrine. I actually like this one a lot. Loot from battles +2, because I do like to fight a lot of battles. So getting +2 loot when you're only getting 4 or 5 each battle anyways, it's actually a pretty big increase. Officer's command radius, kind of useless. All resources cost at settlements. This is basically when you want to buy food, reservists, or ammunition at a settlement. Most of the stuff I try to get from battle and not from spending money. I want to spend the money on recruiting troops and upgrading troops. I don't want to spend money on this stuff. So I try not to do this too much. So this is the most obvious one. And then also, quick point, if you get an officer that has volley fire replaced by fire by rank, take this 100% of the time if you're doing any kind of shooting. If it's obviously on a melee or cavalry charge, don't. But any kind of infantry, you should be taking this every time. This is so good. Unfortunately, this is on our artillery commander, so we're definitely not taking that, but we will take a +10 range. So now we have, I believe, 35% more range. Yep. That helps a lot when you're trying to shoot other artillery, because they have to come in really close to you to even get a shot on you. And then they're at 50% of your max range, which means every shot's going to land with devastating effect. So with all of those armies cleared out, we've got all the doctrines. Like I said, on your campaign, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't worry. It really doesn't make that big of a difference having these doctrines. As you can see, most of them are kind of pointless. The main thing is to get combat experience and kind of know how to lead troops on the battle. You will get some upgrades and loot by doing that, so these guys are probably way stronger than they need to be to defeat the HQ. But for your campaign, if you're not doing those fights, don't worry about it. The other thing you should do, if you don't want to take fights like that, just go around and raid all the settlements you can, stack up as much cash as you can, and get your provisions, your reservists, and your ammunition in order. So buy as much of that stuff as you need so that you have, stockpiles. When you go into Act 2, you can just hit the ground running there. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to run around and raid these settlements that we haven't touched. And we still have quite a bit of time left. Hopefully we come across maybe another army or two, and then we'll fight the HQ. We just got the pop-up that the headquarters has activated, so they are coming after us. We're pretty far away though, so we should be able to raid one more settlement. We're going to rush over there quickly. Don't think we need to buy anything. Our artillery's in pretty good shape, and I'm going to just skip all this. We could min-max a little bit and, get all items all perfect, but I think for the purposes of this guide, we should be able to handle it with what we've got. So let's just go ahead and raid, finish this off. Hopefully before he gets to us, he does pick up steam incredibly fast, but yeah, it looks like we'll be able to do it. And it is now wintertime as well. Now, when wintertime hits, you use your food faster, you move slower, and you can see less. So just be careful in wintertime. Prepare extra food. So if you're used to having a certain amount, make sure you have an extra like 20-30% in wintertime. And there we go. We finished our last raid. And then let's just be brave and head straight into battle with these guys. So they do outnumber us slightly. They have only 3 cannons, but they do have some fusiliers. They have some musketeers, so they have a pretty good army. Let's go set up. So there's no hills to take advantage of. What we're going to do is use these hedgerows, and that'll be our defensive line. Keep our cannons really close to the front line so they pretty much devastate anything that comes near, and we should be all right. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll show you what our final position is before they meet, and then we'll patch back into the battle. And you can see we already scared off an artillery. I wasn't even paying attention. They're just shooting at whatever they want to shoot at, and they happen to kill. So once you get decent cannons and you get some good accuracy on these guys, you can see we got 90, 82, 117, and 60. Yeah, this guy sucks, but these other 3 are pretty good. They can actually take out enemy artillery decently, but it's still usually better to pick on their infantry. But if you can pick off the artillery before they get a single shot off, it's definitely worth it. There goes another one. But anyways, let's go over our defensive position here. So we have infantry lining all of the hedgerows. We have a solid line. What is this? We got a cart running back to our lines, apparently. Yeah, so we've got everybody in the hedgerows. We've got up to 84% cover on those units that have the earthworks and a hedgerow to hide behind. Now, there's no defensive terrain on this right flank, so what I'm doing is leaving it open. We will bait them in to come in to try to flank, and then we have these 2 units back here that will come in and close the gap and flank them. We'll take a little bit of flanking fire, but they will take double the flanking fire because they're only going to have room to fit 1 infantry here to flank, and we will have 2. We could also turn our artillery and just completely smash them out of the water. It looks like we killed all of their artillery pieces, so now we need to look for high value targets. These named units, Heinrich von Prussen Fusiliers, these guys need to go. 100% they need to go. They are incredibly strong. Let's look at their stats. 60 charge damage. If they charge us, we're pretty much screwed. Their shooting skill is not as crazy, but if they get in close, it could be a real problem. So we do need to focus them down. Once they're dealt with, it looks like the rest are pretty standard. Maybe these cuirassiers, these guys are really strong as well. You see they got 64 melee attack, so pretty good. But yeah, we're gonna still focus these guys down. They're almost gone. Look at that. Their morale is less than half. So make sure you are paying attention to who your cannons are shooting at. And then once the lines start to form, make sure everybody's shooting. So right here, these guys are engaging. These guys engaged. These guys are about to engage. That's perfect. And here they go. They're gonna come right for our flank. We want all of their damage to hit this, and then we want the firepower coming from here. So make sure they shoot at the units that's in cover, and then you come in and you hit them when they're unprotected. This guy can probably come out. I had him here on the flank just to be under cover, but he's not going to really get a shot off if he's there. So I'm gonna uncork him and have him join the front line here. Let's see, these guys are still kicking, but almost dead. Looks like everybody in our line is shooting except for these guys, which is fine. Let's get them, yeah, let's get them pushed up so they can get some shots off. They do have a recruit unit that's coming up. We could probably fire on them. It doesn't look like, as long as they're not shooting at us, these Fusiliers with the main group, that's fine. We can take a 2v1 there if that's what they want to do. So let's go ahead and target him. He's bladed to us. That's an easy flanking hit. Yeah, pretty good damage there. And how are we doing over here? Looks like they broke, these guys broke, so there's nobody else that's going to be up here. We want to continue to push our line to meet their line. These guys are still shooting, so they're fine. Actually, they're shooting at retreating units. They're not going to be fine. So what we want to do is move them. So we'll move everybody. So we'll extend our new line to be right here. And again, you can use tab to see where your new line is drawn. So we'll pull them up. I don't expect this side to hold for too long. We do need to target our artillery though. Let's go ahead and take out maybe these musketeers, because these guys are unprotected. I don't want to take too much damage over here. So we'll redeploy our artillery on this right flank. And then these guys should be ready to go. I don't mind double timing that. Let's get all these guys in order. Double speed. We got cuirassiers coming in. We do have our main general here to reinforce. Let's go ahead and hold our fire. Do we have any other cav coming in? We have one right here, and then these guys are starting to move, but we should be fine. We have a full volley locked and loaded, and we should be able to put it on them right when they get in front. So we will probably target right about right here. We'll let it rip. So I'm just going to hold steady. Zoom in a little, hold steady, and fire. It didn't do nearly as much as I was hoping. But that's okay. We have a really good spot. Like I said, we're fully braced. We actually have decent melee. 53 melee is not bad. And then fully braced, they're not getting in there. All right, these guys are getting charged. Oh, hold your fire, hold your fire. Yep, perfect. We have a chevaux de frise with these, but they're not targeting them. They're actually targeting these Fusiliers, so we do need to hold our fire. And then same thing, we'll line it up right about right here, and we will let it rip. Oh man, we took them down to about 80% less than what they started with on their morale. So really, really good hold. These guys held without us even paying attention. This side's gone just about. Oh, they got Cantonists that tried to flank us, so now we need to readjust our line and flank them. They don't have any cannons left, so they're pretty much just fleeing. I think I'm just going to speed this up. It's pretty much over. There we go. They had 2 units left, and they just got smashed by artillery. So you can see our line here. We really didn't take any damage. We had 2 units have maybe 200 casualties. But overall, we had a very solid defensive line. We had really good artillery. We had artillery superiority. And because we weren't moving around and shifting our lines back and forth, we had brace to be able to handle their cav. So we had an answer for everything that they had. And yep, some good stuff. We can use a lot of this. We need more earthworks on some of those guys. And that's pretty much it. We'll sell the rest. So this, only 700 losses. That's crazy for an HQ battle, actually. Yeah, they outnumbered us, but we just put the beating on them for sure. In this case, I would probably take the money. No, we'll take the reservists. Yeah, that means we'll be good going into Act 2. I'm not going to play this out in Act 2. I think this should get you guys off to a really, really good start. You honestly could probably do Act 2 without hiring anybody else. You could win Act 2 with just this army if you continue to upgrade their items and increase their accuracy and all that other stuff. In terms of artillery, I personally prefer veteran artillery, so that you stay with the same amount of cannons, but you increase your accuracy and your reload. I just think that's a better value, in my opinion. But you can choose whatever you want. Here we go. And in terms of upgrades, we are going for range or accuracy. I'd rather have accuracy over range, but I don't see that, so we will take 10% range. So this guy's ending with combat effectiveness, which is basically accuracy and reload, accuracy and range, and then range. Really, really strong officer for here. And then this guy ended up getting plus 10% range. So yeah, that's pretty much it. At the end of the act, you do pick up another doctrine, so we will get one more. And in this case, we are primarily focusing on infantry for leveling our troops. The artillery gains XP so fast, so I would not worry about them having a minus 10%. Infantry is much harder to level up, and we're going to be hiring more infantry. I would say, let's actually get into the next section, and I'll kind of tell you what I would do. And then also for this section, it really depends on what upgrades you're going for, but again, accuracy, range, reload. Any of those would be good. If you can't get any of those, casualty replenishment is always solid. Anything that makes you more money is solid. This is useless. Don't buy resources at settlements unless you're, really desperate. So in this case, I would probably go for the casualties restored. That one's really good, so we'll take that. And then let me talk real quickly about how I would approach Act 2. So we're starting with 3 full brigades and 2,500 gold. I would probably open up a new brigade, find an officer, and then just fill this with artillery. I would have 2 full brigades of infantry all the way up to veteran fusiliers. Maybe don't unlock these last 2 until the late game because that's very expensive. But if you can get up to, 6 inventory slots, it's just jam-packed with all the accuracy and reload and, all that range that you can get, and then some defensive items, get them ready to go. Get 2 sets of artillery. Nobody's going to be able to pierce your lines. They won't even be able to approach half the time because you'll just blast them out of the water. So keep doing that on your artillery. Again, you want to make sure you have limber chests, preferably the big ones. You want to have as much ammo consumption reduction as you can possibly get. So get the big ones. You want to go for accuracy. Reload's not as important. Go for accuracy and range. That's most important. And then, 2 regiments of artillery, 2 regiments of infantry, and you'll be good until the end game. If you want to do all 5, the 5th one is overkill. You can hire whatever you want. But yep, I think that's pretty much going to do it. I hope this has been helpful. I know this can be a tricky game to get the hang of. It can be a little overwhelming based on how many options you have, how many directions you can go with building your army, building items, all that stuff. So hopefully I give you some tips and tricks to get you started. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer as many as I can. And we will see you guys on the next video. Take care.